This is The Gorge! This is a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a game or game-related topic. This week, we are talking again about Persona 5 for the PlayStation 4.
Hello.
And we have a special guest this week.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Are you excited to talk for a really long time about some Japanese teenagers?
Yes, I'm always ready for that, but in this case, specifically about Persona 5, I'm very ready for that.
Yes. It's a very specific bunch of Japanese teenagers. Not just like any random Japanese teenager.
Right.
It's a specific
it's
group.
It's the boys who are titularly back in town, is what it is.
So yeah, this week is a special guest breaking down characters. We're getting all fancy because we're bringing on like people again, which we haven't done in a while.
We
like E3
haven't done that
last
since
year.
We did the
that's right.
Nuka World with
Oh,
Othar.
boy.
That was a fun one because nobody had like the E3 one was kind of rough too, but that was a fun one because like everybody's audio went weird in some way in that one.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
We're all recording beautifully right now. So, yeah. Do you want to just, like, hop right to it? Because...
Yeah, I mean, like, last week we did just, like, the general plot stuff, and we got mad hype about certain events that were really cool.
And, about aesthetics and whatnot. So this is kind of like, you know, we usually do a thing where we don't talk about spoilers. Sorry, not this time. So...
They brought me in
this
here
is
because
spoiler
I'm
territory.
a registered spoiler practitioner, so...
You're here to observe and make sure everything is, like, spoilered to government code.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, so...
You can't get spoilers without a prescription, which is why I'm here.
Saturn's like got a notepad, and they're just like, just go as you normally would and pretend I'm not here.
Rating our spoiler performances.
Occasionally muttering to themselves, like in a weird, like suspicious kind of way, like a judgmental way.
My notepad.
Like, I'm not sure about that.
And you look at it, and it's just like a bunch of doodles of alligators.
Okay. Alright, so, let's get this fucking shit started, because there's a lot of good kids in this game.
So...
They're good kids.
They're good kids, Brent. They're good kids, Brent.
Why do you rate the kids if you're just always going to give them 9 to 11 out of 10s? Because they're good kids, Brent. That's why.
There are some especially good kids in this particular iteration of the franchise.
A lot of very special boys and special girls. So let's get started.
So, we'll start with the main boy himself, the fool Akira Kurusu, as he's going to be forever known as, and I don't care what the inevitable anime says.
Because Yu Narukami is a stupid name, and Makoto Yuki is a porn star, so I can't actually trust any of the animated adaptations to get names right, as it turns out. None of them know how to do it right. So we have to rely solely on the mangas for proper naming conventions.
I will live and die by Yu Narukami, if only because I can't think of the name Seto Soji without thinking of Yu-Gi-Oh!
They even kind of have the same haircut.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean that's fair.
So yeah, let's like get this out of the way. Is Akira the coolest protagonist ever, or is Akira the coolest protagonist ever?
Definitely,
yeah.
In fairness, part of this might be like more of a contemporary thing, because I think like for the era that Persona 3 came out, that Minato, who I'm just gonna go by the names I remember, was very much the protagonist that embodied like the style of that time. But I still think Akira is my favorite. So,
without like. Sarah and I have gushed over and over about how great Soji is, but like, dude, Akira's just so
He's
cool.
just so cool.
What I like is that the game actually kind of gives him a personality, as opposed to none at all. Whereas like for all the other extended work stuff, like he had to give Seto Soji or Minato a personality because the game just did not assume anything.
Right.
And I like that the game, in like this time around, it's like, oh hey, no, like this is a character that you're controlling. It's not just like a self-insert, even though it mostly is. So they have like their own kind of tone going on.
Right, and like and that tone is flawless because it's just all shitty, snarky responses and doing reckless, badass things and having the best hair I've ever seen. I spend a truly exorbitant amount of time in this game. In like any time when he has like no glasses on, or in the TV, the metaverse. Okay. I've done that a lot already.
Metaverse.
There's
well, they're social links, okay? You'll never get me to actually
links.
call them confidants.
But yeah, like I spent a lot of time in the metaverse just going like, boy, he has great hair. Like, I can't get my hair to do that. I'm not an anime character. But like I spend a lot of time just like marveling at how fucking cool his hair is and how good his fucking Phantom Thieves costume is, because it is truly just the raddest thing. It's definitely the best of the bunch, and there are a bunch of really good ones, but his Phantom Thieves costume is almost certainly the best one.
For sure.
Oh yeah. Like, I always think of when I first like saw Akira, like his normal outfit and then his metaverse, his metaverse coat, all I could think of was that yearbook picture where it's Daniel and then the cooler Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say compared to everyone else, like, and this is probably like the base expectedness maybe, but for any other tonal dissonance in Persona 5, like, they got the protagonist down pat. Like, that is the character that should be the protagonist of this game, about, like, being a thief and being a kind of, like, devil-may-care rebel or whatever, and his outfit's just, like, perfect for the role.
Right, like, everything about the outfit is so just, like, For all of, there's like a handful of like design missteps in this game, but like one of the best is just like how perfect the lines of the suit come together, because you look at it and it all just flows together so perfectly. And Ben knows better than anybody that I will never shut the fuck up about costume design in video games, because it's like my favorite conversation topic. But all of his lines come together. The vest has lines pointing inward, and then the suit has lines drawing downward, and then the mask actually acts as like a great focal point because it's white under all that black hair, and his outfit is all black. It's so good.
His is definitely, I think, one of maybe two Phantom Thieves outfits that you could, like, with the appropriate photoshopping of like a cosplay or something, you could convince me with some sort of like Versace fall winter line 2017 deal.
You know what? You're not even remotely wrong. Like, that, his outfit is a fashion statement.
It even
like,
has a dope ass little pocket square. Are you kidding me? This kid is fly as fuck.
And he's got like not even just his outfit, not even just like that, like his mannerisms as a Phantom Thief are just like, oh, they're so cool.
And just like you only get to see it once in the game unless you're playing solo, which, I mean, you could probably do. This game is easy enough. If you were just running solo, you can see it more, but like if you're playing it normally, you only see his like little solo victory thing once, and it has like the charming neck rub and like boyish smile, and you're just like, oh, shut the fuck up. Fuck you, Persona 5. You can't have the coolest protagonist. Leave me alone. So, yeah. And just like the bit at the end of the game where you shoot God with a bullet made out of sin is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. And like I said, we are already getting right into spoilers. It's fine.
Yeah. We're deep.
It's like the coolest thing ever. It was just, as soon as the scene was over, I went and watched it again on YouTube just to make sure it actually happened, because it was so cool. I was like, there's no way anything could look that dope, but they managed it.
That's part of what I appreciate about his whole aesthetic in general, too, is, like, with any other game or even any other character, like, seeing all that, like, fucking edgy goth shit would just be, like, so off-putting, and, like, oh, he's trying so hard to be cool. But it doesn't feel unnatural for Akira or any extension of him. Like, his persona design is super, like, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But, like,
Oh my god, Arsene looks so cool!
Or, like, for any other character, it'd be like, oh, they're the spooky goth character, they have the spooky goth persona, but for him it's like, oh, he just likes Castlevania, that's just who he is as a human.
He's just that
Yeah,
sick.
well, he does like retro games, that's canon.
Yeah, he's just a cool guy, it's great. Like,
he's just the coolest guy you've ever known, ever, and he lives in an attic over some guy's coffee shop.
Right? Like, he's got the millennial lifestyle, like, down. I mean, he lives by himself above a coffee shop in, like, a small little loft attic in that cool, like, little alleyway part of Tokyo.
And he doesn't have to pay rent. Like, whatever.
That
Motherfucker.
he can go to his job whenever he damn well pleases.
and gets paid
that
bank.
We were talking about that, like, during the Persona 4 cast. Like, fuck you, Akira. Every job that, like, you work for, they're like, oh yeah, we just need some help here and there, so come in whenever you want. It's like, get fucked.
It's really egregious, but it's also, like, I love the idea that he's just like, man, I'm not gonna get held hostage by the man. I'll work whenever I want to.
And he's so cool that, like, none of the managers can get mad at him because he just saunters in and he's like, yeah, I think I'll work today. And everyone's like, man, Akira Kurusu, you're so cool. We'll let you do whatever you want all of the time. And he gets paid, like, sweet bank because, like, 100 yen is equivalent to, like, $1. Right?
More or
so
less,
then, like,
yeah.
some of these jobs he's working pay, like, 5,000 yen. That's $50 a night. And for, like, a teenager,
yeah,
you're working that every single night? Shut the fuck up. Whatever. That's a lot of money for a 17-year-old.
And, like, his shifts are, like, what? He works after school to the evening, so that's, what, like, 3 hours?
Nothing. It's like nothing. And even when he works the night jobs, they're like, well, I guess we gotta send you home early because you're a student. I'm like, motherfucker, none of my part-time jobs in high school ever sent me home early because I was a student.
Yeah,
so, like...
I will say, not to, like, broach immediately into, like, any kind of negativity or whatever, that's one of, like, the weird, like, formula things that was always kind of distracting me during this game in particular, because so much of it is, like, very topical about, like, how, like, not just about, like, the whole blending into society thing, but also, like, for a lot of these characters, especially the way, like, being crushed under the cruel boots of capitalism, or however you want to phrase it,
right?
And, like, just this, like, random teen with a criminal background can just make hella bank going into work whenever he wants, and, like,
yeah,
okay,
sure, I guess you don't want to break from convention too much, but still.
It makes you think that the world revolves around your protagonist or something, which is, like, explicitly the opposite point that the game is trying to make, which is hilarious, but
yeah,
it's fine. It's fine,
and, like,
it's video games.
And, you know, but ultimately it's like, the jobs exist as a gameplay mechanic to boost your stats and get money if you don't go grinding in Mementos. And, like, it would be utter bullshit if you could get fired from your job because you were busy hanging out with your friends. Like, you know, because, like, that's the problem with Persona 3, which is, like, you can't have to balance your social links realistically or else your friends will get mad at you. And they realize, like, that's actually a really dumb mechanic because it makes things way more stressful than we want.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I mean, like, does anybody really, like, the only time I ever, especially in playthrough 2, but even a lot in playthrough 1, literally after a certain point, the only time I worked jobs was because I had to, like, find somebody's name out for Mementos. And,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
The thing is that the only job I ever worked, like, religiously was the flower shop job, because there's no other way to boost your goddamn kindness, and it is impossible to boost your goddamn kindness in this stupid game.
Yeah, it's really weird how that's balanced. So, like, that's always the stat that, like, everyone I've talked to who's playing this game, that's always the stat that lags the farthest behind. And it's because the two social links that give it, one's locked till October, and the other one, like, hard locks at a certain point until, like, August, and then aside from that, it's just, like, you either water your plant, you get the kindness shake when it's available, or you just sell some fucking flowers.
And you sell a lot of fucking flowers, and that's all you do, and you pray somebody shows up with a request so that you can make more fucking flowers and more fucking kindness. After a certain point, just so I could, like, max Sojiro fast enough, I was spending every single night at that goddamn flower shop. I was just like, I hate this so much.
It's really good.
But it is funny to think of the coolest kid you know working in a flower shop, so, like, thanks for that aesthetic, Persona 5.
The coolest kid you know works, like, 4 part-time jobs and also lives in an attic. Which, I mean, if I knew anyone like that in high school, I'd probably also think they were the coolest person around.
You're so right.
Oh, yeah,
for sure. Like, your friend lives by themselves in high school, that is the coolest kid you know, without a doubt. So...
And he can also smuggle his cat into school, and no one says... People know that he has his cat, okay?
It's bullshit!
Akira does a terrible job of hiding Morgana.
I refuse to believe that Akira is considered the uncool, transfer crazy student kid when he brings his cat to school every day. Are you kidding me? No, he should be the most that's the only unreal... Like, of all of the unrealistic things in P5, that is the most unrealistic one. That the kid who brings his cat to school every goddamn day is not the most popular kid in the school. Shut up. Like...
I feel like at some point, just like, because there's no way the teachers never notice that, I feel like at some point, like, Kawakami just has, like, an emergency, like, teacher council meeting, like, look, I know he has the cat, it's a service animal, he has anxiety, just don't mention it, please.
Right? Yeah. Like, she's just like, okay, we all know he has the cat, right? So let's just, you know what? This kid's had a really rough time of it. The cat doesn't make any noise. It doesn't do anything.
Helps him cheat on his exam.
Just let him have the cat. Well, she doesn't know that.
That's the best part, though, because whenever Morgana talks, he's meowing to people that hear him, which means that cat is making noise every single day.
I will say that, like, I want a sound clip of Morgana's "Ooh, we can do this" because it's really encourage,ing, actually.
Just make that your text tone so you can always feel like really motivated by this goddamn cat. But yeah, like... but, speaking of school, since we're here, I will say the only thing that I really, like, disliked about the school mechanic, other than the fact that they have, like, lunchtime appear on your little thing, like your little day counter thing, but you never actually do anything at lunchtime, and I think it's just a holdover from P4, but it's still kind of weird. Anyways, the point is that, like, so you don't get any really good bonuses for answering questions right in P5. Like, you get knowledge bonuses, but if you're on playthrough 2, I literally am choosing wrong answers just so I can fuck up the cheating thing that the PlayStation thing gives you. At this point, I'm just like, I wonder if I can skew the ratio, and I can't, because there's like a billion other people playing this game. But, like...
You do get one benefit, though, and that's, I guess aside from just leveling up your knowledge, and it's that if you do well on the exams, you get items from Sojiro.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you, like, in Persona 4, if you did well on your exams, and sometimes if you answered questions, like if Yosuke was like, I don't know the answer to this question, you could give Yosuke the answer. And it would boost it would give you a little bit of points with Yosuke in his social link, which was super helpful. And it happened too, if you made top points in your exams, you got a minor boost with all your school friends. That doesn't happen in Persona 4, so like, in the second playthrough, you literally have no reason except to get items from Sojiro to answer questions right, like in pop quizzes and stuff. You know, like, do well on your exams, but you can fuck around in class.
I will say there's more of that we can talk about maybe after we finish the original through line of, like, talking about the different party members, but there is a lot to talk about vis-a-vis the things this game, like, borrows from Persona 3 and Persona 4 in terms of formula that just does nothing with.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. That's a podcast topic.
It's not necessarily in a bad way, but, like, there's a lot of things where it's like, this is very much a kind of, especially if you've seen any of the concept art about, like, kind of the original conceptualization of Persona 5 as being sort of a road trip game, kind of like in the vein of Final Fantasy 15, where, like, there's a lot of things like, okay, what do people like from the old ones? Let's just do that, put that in there. But we can talk about that more maybe after we finish the main brunt of the topics.
Basically, like, there's a lot of stuff in this game that I'm going to bet will not be in P6.
Yeah, I can see that.
I hope with P6 they do something, like, not to be like, oh, Persona 5's bad, like, because I really enjoyed Persona 5, like everyone else in this podcast. But I really hope that for 6, whatever they do, they buck a lot of the overworld formula like they were planning on originally, because I'm not sick of the Japanese high school thing, but I feel like a lot of it is kind of played out.
I'm kind of sick of the Japanese high school thing, but I'm 28. So
yeah,
like
that's true.
my time out of high school, I'm now officially 10 years out of high school because my 10-year reunion happened and I wasn't there. Or it's coming up anyways. Yeah, I'm 10 years out of high school, and to me, like, playing high school now, I'm just like, boy, this is just kind of like, I tried to get away from this. I'm really hoping P6 does the jet-setting road trip kind of thing, and they actually make that game, because, like, as a concept, that sounds dope as hell. Are you kidding me? I would much rather play the badass. Like, no more school. That's all I'm saying. I know that every single Persona game is about school, but they have to find a way to break it up somehow. I don't know how. I'm not a game designer. That's not my job. But, they've got to find a way to kind of vary it up, because at a certain point, it's like, go to school every single day, and I'm tired of it. Yeah.
Other possible thing to discuss after main through line is I am really interested, personally, to know, like, the degree to which them kind of giving up on the original idea and going back to school thing was like a push from Sega, given that they own Atlus now, and they didn't when Persona 4 came out.
Right.
Also, I don't think they did when Persona 5 started development either, because I think it's a relatively recent buyout, right? Like last 3 years?
Last 4 or 5, something like that. I do know that the earthquake and the meltdown in Fukushima kind of contributed to Persona 5 being what it is, because they were like, well, we I guess it was like a patriotism thing, to be like, well, we should, with all of this horrible thing that happened in Japan in 2011, we should focus on Japan again. I guess I get that, but like, okay. Yeah, like, I understand, but at the same time, I'm really curious to know what game we were going to get, and maybe we will
because I know Persona 5 started full-time development. I read this, I think it was after Persona 4 The Golden was done. It was sometime in 2012.
Okay, that makes sense. That's about 5 years ago, so and that would be immediate. That would be the year after the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in 2011, so, that makes sense. We got off topic.
Yeah, we should...
Yeah, we did.
Last we left off, we talked about Akira being cool. I don't know if we plumbed that avenue or if we want to move on to the next party members.
The only last thing I want to mention with him is, like, what is this kid about that all of these hot older women are addressed?
Someone who wrote, whoever was on the writing team for Persona 5 had a very specific fetish.
Yeah.
Also, I know the actual answer to this, in which it is part because, like, obviously these are games set in high school, but they're like, because of ESRB ratings and things like that, like presumably marketed to like adults, predominantly adult men, I'd assume. Right. And like, there's, I know, a huge part of the kind of like it's in modern times especially, but like kind of concern thing of like, in as part of that sort of developing male sexuality vis-a-vis like high school years, like, oh, there's the hot older lady, hubba hubba.
Right.
So
yeah,
I feel like it's just part of one of those things where it's like, I think there's a lot of it, and it's like to the point where it skeezes me out. Like,
it's a little weird because there are so many waifus in this game.
Well, yeah, it's a thing where it's like, it was more like Persona 3, and there was one instance of it, and it was like as a one-off side mission from like a character, like what happened with Elizabeth, because, all that jazz. Like, that's like a thing where it's like, oh, okay, this is for that specific person who wants to see that, and it's also like about the extent to which that kind of fantasy would, I think, factor into the average like high school boy's life. But in this, like, literally half the people you can date are like twice your age, and it's like kind of spooky.
It's kind of weird. And like, there are a lot of, like, I'm not crazy, there are a lot of waifus in this game, right?
Oh, tons.
Yeah, there it does feel like the scale has tipped in that way.
It's a little strange, and there are a lot of older waifus. Most of them, I mean, it's like almost an even split. Like, I think it's 50. It's like half girls your age, half like
if it's not 50-50,
it's
basically 50-50.
Okay, yeah. Because I was saying somebody said that if Sae had been romanceable, it actually would have been an even 50-50 split. So yeah, that's it's pretty weird. There's a lot of waifus in this game. Kind of strange, but yeah, it's just like a weird high school boy power fantasy, just taken like way too far. Like, chill the fuck out, Persona 5. So yeah. So
So, we can move on to the first good kid. And that is Ryuji the Chariot.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
He's a good kid.
For what aspects of the formula the game does break, I'm glad that your, like, shithead dude bro friend is not Magician this time around. Because I feel like for Persona 3 and Persona 4, it kind of, like, hamstringed both, like, Junpei and Yosuke to kind of be like, oh, we have the Magician arc, so we kind of have to be, like, your tour guide through whatever. Whereas for Ryuji's just, like, a shithead. And it, like... It's a thing where, like, it's maybe less functional to the game itself, but also at the same time it feels like a better decision as far as, like, having a character who's, like, believable and doesn't feel like they just exist to be your protagonist swingman.
Right. It's kind of like, I think, like, Ryuji is the best. I don't know, I'm really fond of Junpei.
Junpei's good.
Junpei is such a good character! That's the problem. I want to say...
I'll give it to Ryuji for Persona 5. I'll give it to Junpei for Persona 3 female protagonist, but I'll give it to Ryuji.
That is a good split because Junpei's
that's a good compromise.
His social link in P3 is like one of the best in the franchise. Like, it's that good. So like if you're playing P3P as like the female protagonist, then yeah, for sure, Junpei is the best iteration of the dude bro best friend. But if you're just playing like normal Persona 3 and Persona 4 and you're playing P5, I think Ryuji is definitely the best version of the dude bro best friend you're gonna get from like the canon installments. And I hate you, Atlas. How dare you make the female protagonist non-canon? But whatever. I just think that his kind of like he's not quite the same kind of blandness. Like, I like Yosuke, I do, but I just think that Ryuji's kind of he has a lot of the similar hang-ups, but they handle it in a way that feels more like an actual teenage boy with rage issues, and I like that. You know, I think that's
there's a lot of aspects of Ryuji in particular, and some of the other characters in P5 that feel like they're kind of like blended or distilled from other characters in the older games formula, and with Ryuji, it feels like they've tried to capture like a lot of, like, not just the dude bro-ness, but also like a lot of, like, say, Chie's boisterousness or Kanji's hot-headedness and things like that, and it does a lot to make the character more complex. And I would like, it's the thing that a few of the P5 characters do, which is like maybe a bit derivative of formula, but I happen to really appreciate.
Yeah, like I like that Ryuji's like whole he is a dude bro, but I really appreciate that they actually like dive into the jock aspect of him, and like he is an athlete, and we actually get to see him doing athlete things like working out a lot, and like they have that great bit where he's actually getting frustrated with An for not taking her workout seriously and for overworking herself, and it's like you don't really you think of him as kind of like a meathead, but he's like, no, you have to pace yourself, you can't just do everything at once, you're going to exhaust yourself, and it's like, oh, he's smart about this, and he knows what he's talking about.
Actually, my favorite part of this is you get the fun payoff from that cutscene near the end of the 7th Palace, where him specifically being a track runner is like has payoff, and not just being like a volleyball guy or a basketball guy or whatever. Like they chose him to be the track runner specifically so they could have that little scene at the end there, and it's like really nice.
Mm-hmm. And like, I just think that they handled the idea of like the idiot, hot-headed, short-tempered friend. They handled it in like a really relatable way. Just coming from like your own my own background and things like that, where it's kind of like, the whole idea of him being really quick to anger at first when you first play the game, you're like, boy, he. Why does everything piss him off that much? And then you think about it for more than 5 seconds, and you're like, oh, right, it's because, his backstory means, he's pissed off at everything because, like everybody else in this game, the universe dealt him a shit hand. And so, I think one of the best cutscenes in the game, one of the better scenes in the game is when he gets really, really mad about realizing that they've been played for fools by everyone, and he gets so mad that it scares some of the girls, and his first reaction is to apologize. I just think that kind of solidified him as just a good boy, the best, the sweetest boy, and he loves his mom. Come on.
Yeah. And his whole confidant, I love, is really focused. And I'm branching off of that point, I love that one of the whole things about his confidant is, he is a hothead and he's very quick to anger, and his whole confidant is about the consequence of being that quick to anger. And, like, I'm sure it felt really satisfying to fucking belt Kamoshida. But because of that, he ruined the track team.
Yeah. And,
And he deals with that in, like, a very mature way. And, like, he really owns up to, he's like, I know, I made a mistake doing that. But, when you think about it, like, it would have... It's almost impossible to expect this kid to not just, like... You push him far enough, like, he's going to lash out eventually.
One of the scenes in The Confidant is that, like, one of his senpai from back, and who's already gone off to college now, who, they run into at the gym, he says that, like, you decked Kamoshida, but honestly, Kamoshida was wanting that to happen. If it wasn't you, it was going to be somebody else. And that's just something that, like, I knew was going to happen. So that really there was no other option. Like, it was going to be Ryuji or it was going to be somebody else. And so, honestly, at the end of the day, if anybody deserved to punch Kamoshida in the teeth, technically it's actually Anna Shiho. But then it's Ryuji Sakamoto.
What I like about his social link in particular, and especially about how his sort of, like, lashing out against Kamoshida is kind of, like, the crux of his whole, like, situation he's in now, is that it's one of those situations that, like, the game doesn't do this too much, but when it does it right, it's really cool. And it's like, he made the mistake, quote-unquote, but the mistake was also the right thing to do. And that the alternate universe in which he didn't make the mistake is the one in which he's, like, miserable.
Yeah,
because you guys talked about
never
a bit
stood
on
up
the last
to him.
episode about, like, sort of the way in which being cast out of society is part of what, like, gives you the persona and makes you a persona user. And in his way, like, doing that thing is, like, sure, it broke the track team and whatever, but also disrupting the order in that way is what cast him out of society and let him be who he is now.
Right,
and it's like it's cool to look at it from
it's a more free version of himself, somebody who isn't, like, because I mean, like, we all kind of have that moment where it's like somebody was a jerk to us, and we know in our heart of hearts we should have called them out for being a jerk, and we didn't, because we didn't want to rock the boat or whatever. I mean, everybody has moments of like that in their entire life.
Exactly.
And it kind of feels like if Ryuji hadn't done that, if he had just taken it from Kamoshida the way everybody else was, then he just, like, that would have been his hang-up instead. No matter what, he was going to have a hang-up about it, and the hang-up this time was that, I didn't speak out when I should have. I didn't punch, Kamoshida in the teeth for shit-talking my mom. So, like, that would be his problem instead. So, like, it was a lose-lose situation, but the option he picked was the better of the two. And the game handled that really, really well, I think. Yeah.
And I really, really adore that, like, the core of Ryuji's anger problems are not, like, any slights against him. What really pisses him off is when people lash, or, like, say something or do something bad to other people. He's a very protective person. Like, I noticed I think one of the only 2 times he actually says fuck in the entire game, is when it's in regards to the idea of someone, idea of reading Futaba's mom's suicide note
in front of, like, everybody who knows her. It's, like, one of the few times he's like, that's really fucking messed up. And, like, that's because that's just kind of, like, the core of his character is to be, like, to understand that when you're on the receiving end of kind of being that level of helpless, it's infuriating. And, like, that's what makes him the most angry, is even, like, small things, like, some asshole politician cutting you off the elevator. Like, Ryuji is the guy who is like, hey, you asshole! Like, that is a moment that everybody wishes they could have when somebody cuts you off in line and something like that. And he does. Shido cuts them off at the elevator at the fucking buffet, and Ryuji's just like, dude, that's a dick move. And you wish you could do things like that yourself sometimes.
Yeah. We said that, like, Akira's, like, wish fulfillment, but, like, if you think about it, Ryuji is wish fulfillment another way, in that he actually says, like, the things we are always thinking when, like, some slight happens against us. Like, if someone cuts in line, or if they cut you off while you're driving, like, Ryuji will actually say what you're thinking.
Exactly, instead of just kind of, like, nodding and smiling and be like, fine, whatever. Like, yeah, and He has probably my one of, if not, that's not true. No, Goemon. Probably my second favorite party persona design.
Dude, Captain Kid looks great.
Really cool looking. Captain Kid and Goemon 2, I was the saddest to see go when you like max those social links.
Yeah. Oh, I want a statue, like a figurine of Captain
cool.
Kid.
What the hell?
He's very cool.
Oh my god, he looks awesome.
I think Captain Kid is the best way to show somebody the huge aesthetic change in like persona design, like the kind of crazy leap Soejima took from P3 and P4, which I mean I've always said like the robots. There's my point. Anyways, the persona design in 4, they all look like robots, which is a cool aesthetic, but to take such a dramatic shift to looking very, very like human in P5 is a really cool shift, and you get that, you kind of have that laid out the most obviously in Captain Kid, who is just like really crazy unique, other than Goemon, who is definitely the best, but that's because, you know, like, it has a pompadour.
It would make sense that Yusuke would have the best designed persona.
Totally does. So yeah, man, I fucking love although I did what was in my notes. We'll get back to this when we get to the last character on this list. This game has a weird thing about fake out deaths. I think fake out deaths are stupid. I don't like them. I thought Ryuji's like running scene at the end of the game was cool, but like the fake out death part, I was just like, oh god, you're not. Look, Persona couldn't pull the trigger. Like, they haven't been able to pull the trigger literally, now that I think about it, since Persona 3. The point is, they haven't really been able to kill anybody off, and then they retconned it in Portable, but Portable isn't canon, so whatever.
Here's the thing that pisses me off, which is that they did succeed in pulling the trigger since Persona 3, which is that they killed Akechi, one, who, for a lot of reasons that I guess we can get into, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate time for it or not, like, should not have been killed off.
Oh, Akechi is on this podcast, and in fact, Ben asked me earlier, he's like, should we have Akechi on this podcast? Because I feel like we could probably do a whole podcast about just that character. But Akechi is definitely on this podcast, so don't worry.
Yeah, but it's a thing where like they pull the trigger on that boy, even in spite of the thing, and then they do not have the guts to also pull the trigger on Ryuji. Which I feel like if you did neither or you did both would have been the only acceptable ways to do it, and having one and not the other seems kind of like shitty.
Well, they did it a third time. Well, they did it a third time, and we are actually about to get there because the next one on the list is Morgana.
Yep,
the magician.
And Morgana definitely ties into it. Frankly, if they had, like, you know, it's kind of like, we'll get this, just kind of clear the air of this right now. I think Morgana's fake out death at the end of P5 is like the most obnoxious iteration of the trope.
It is so undeserved.
Well, because like it was really weird because like he fades away and you're like, and it doesn't hit you because you're like, they're not gonna kill Morgana. Like you already know, like, because for one thing, like when you find out Morgana's backstory and it's like, he's a construct created by Igor, you know? And which I want to say right now, I am 100% convinced, 100%, that Igor, who also created Elizabeth and Theodore and Margaret and all them, like, the reason he created Morgana is because he remembered Teddy and he thought, this will be hilarious.
I was going to say, actually, because for me, Morgana and like all the fake out death and everything, is that Morgana is a character that basically had to, for me, in my experience, had to spend the entire game trying and failing to justify their existence in the plot to me.
Right.
Because I feel like Persona 5's plot makes plenty of sense without Morgana in it, with like only the most marginal of rewrites.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I feel like what happened is that Morgana, and specifically their ability to transform into the cat bus, is a holdover from when this was a road trip game, and they were going to take it out when they switched it over to the school setting, and Sega said, no, you need the mascot character.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, because if you look at like even like early screenshots of the game, Morgana was supposed to be in mascot form in the real one too.
Horrifying. Yeah, I don't know, like, I just think like the whole, because the thing is that, you know, Ben is right. There's the scene, the cat disappears, and you're like, they're not really going to do this. And then there's kind of like a pause, and the cat doesn't show back up, and you're like, oh, maybe they really did this. Maybe they actually did the thing where they killed off the mascot character in the touching
And for the next 45 minutes...
You think, you've come to terms with it, you're like, this is really sad, but like, man, they really did a thing that I didn't expect. Good for you, Atlas. Wrong.
No, he comes back.
Or if you're me, you're like, okay, Morgana justified his existence through a kind of, like, existential heroic sacrifice, and that's okay, and then he comes back, and you yell. because you don't like Morgana, because you're not sure why he exists.
No, I love Morgana, though.
No.
I don't remember if y'all talked about it in the first episode, but, like, I feel like I wouldn't mind Morgana as much if for two things. One, if they had been localized better, because they have, like, consistently, like, some of the worst line writing and voice direction in the entire game.
Yeah.
Just straight up, like, there's, like, no consistent tone, and, like, half their lines are not actually edited properly.
Right.
And so they say things, and, like, there's a fun website, I think it's called personaproblems.com.
Oh no.
Which is basically someone just made an outline of, like, Persona 5's most egregious localization problems.
There's a lot.
And Morgana is the source of a lot of the really bad ones. And the thing is, like, I would like them better if they were actually properly localized. And I would like them better if they didn't, like, mom you. Which is, like, the popular fandom meme, but, like, for fuck's sake, they made this whole cool thing to give you first-person internal narration through the thought bubble, and they proceed to have Morgana tell you what you need to do all the time.
Yeah, I was literally just playing the game, like, before this thing fired up, and I went fishing, because I didn't go fishing in my first playthrough, and I actually like fishing mini-games. Fight me. And so I was fishing, and, like, I was fishing a lot, because my proficiency was high, and I was like, yeah, this is fun, I can fish a lot, and do-do-do, and then Morgana is like, I think we should stop for the day, and I'm like, I'm about to throw you in this fucking pond, cat. How's that sound? I don't think we should stop at all. I think I'm gonna fish as much as I want. I'm like, if it had been, like, Akira saying that to himself, like, yeah, I think I should stop for the day, like, whatever. But it's weird to be mommed by the mascot character.
Yeah, and it's, like, it's a really unfortunate thing, because, like, on one hand, it's also like, hey, Morgana's there to, on, like, those fucking, like, 2-week segments where you have unbreaking plot like, just keep it rolling. But the problem is, like, there's so many things which do not heed plot breaks at all. And as a result, like, if you had a DVD and a plot break started, or if you had a Persona and a plot break started, and your fucking cat is stopping you from leaving the house at night, then you'll either come back and have lost your Persona, or have accrued, like, $100 in DVD late fees, and it's, like... The game makes so many player-friendly decisions compared to, like, especially compared to older Persona games and older SMT titles, and it is baffling that those ones made it through the wash.
What they need to do for Persona 5 The Crimson is they just need to straight up put a Velvet Room door in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Because the Velvet Room doesn't take time. And if you're like, oh, I have to go to bed now, but, like, you can do things that don't take up time, like, you can decorate your room, or you can water the plant, or whatever.
Also, like, half the time you go to the Velvet Room for plot, you're in your bedroom anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So what they need to do is just, because the door is there for easy access, at night, but, like, they need to just put it in your room instead of putting it in town, so that you can at least just, like, drop in there and switch your team up or upgrade or whatever, so that you don't have to wait until you can actually have a day where you can go out and do it.
There are long stretches of plot in this game, and they just kind of, like, come out of nowhere sometimes, and you're like, oh, great, well, I have these DVDs. Guess I have to pay all these late fees. That's fine.
Yeah, it's really not great. And it's like, the whole, like, 2 weeks of plot blocks thing is an entirely separate problem that I think the game might have a bit of a problem with, like, being a bit too long in the tooth, and not, like, spending 3 days explaining things sometimes where, like, only one would be needed.
Yeah.
And, like, and I guess it's one of those things where it's, like, it's already annoying to, like, have something, like, said to you 4 different ways in the same way, and then on top of that, if you had anything time-sensitive, like, in the oven, more or less, you are penalized because you made the mistake of, like, having it set up before a plot block that you didn't know about.
Right. So, like, yeah. But, like, of all of that said, like, I do appreciate that Morgana is basically like a smart Teddy.
Oh, like I was about to say, like my favorite thing about him is Tactics Cat.
Tactics Cat. Oh,
he is Tactics Cat. He's actually like he's a goofball and he doesn't quite understand society and whatnot, but he's pretty smart and he's quick to pick up on things.
Yeah.
And, like he is the one. We talked about it last week. He is the one who remembered a brief comment he made like 6 in-game months ago.
Yeah, that kind of like did the whole plot reveal thing. And like it was just kind of nice to have like a mascot character who isn't just bone stupid. As much as I love Teddy, and Teddy's endearingness, it was just nice to have at least somebody know what's going on for like the moments of the game where like nobody knows what's going on. But even then, like it was a nice trade up. I actually really like Morgana's voice actor, which is...
I think the voice actor is good.
I do too.
The voice direction is good.
There's a lot of weird voice direction in this game, though. Like the pronunciation of names.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I have a friend who speaks Japanese, and she said that both are acceptable.
Yeah, I asked Othar the same thing in Big Gay Nerds, and I got the same answer.
I think the problem we have with Morgana mostly is that I've heard in like the sort of original Japanese, I hate to use that term, but whatever.
Well, what are you gonna
do? Is that Morgana tonally is a lot more of just like this sort of like very confident and very competent, like kind of like shonen boy leader, like one of those characters who wears the goggles on their forehead or whatever, and like is like kind of charming and kind of smart and like generally sort of likable, but because of the way the game is like localized or not localized, and like a lot of just things being like kind of raw translations with no editing, for the most part they kind of just like are a whiny neckbeard a lot of the time. And, like they're upset that the hot girl won't fuck them is basically it. And that's like kind of their lasting character trait, is that they're like super horny for this one girl and also mad at Ryuji all the time for no reason. And it's difficult because none of the rest of the character came through. And I know the character in like the original text is supposed to be like very overwhelming, but like in a good way.
Right.
And so it goes back to like being a sort of localization problem. It's like I wish I liked Morgana more, and I'm sure there is a world in which I could have liked Morgana more, but unfortunately they have been horribly betrayed by the processes.
Well, speaking of localization, Saturn, I want to know what you think about this. Is it just me, or does Morgana sound like a Western cartoon character?
Yeah, you know what? I could see that.
You know what I mean? Like, his voice sounds a lot like any, like, standard Western cartoon. Not necessarily, like, there's a weird, like, kind of...
I think it is.
Indescribable, like, difference between a Japanese voice, like, an anime voice actor and, like, an American cartoon voice actor.
What I think part of the thing might be is that, like, the whole process of like getting adult women to voice like young masculine characters and things is like much more of a Western animation trope than it is a Japanese one. And I feel like a lot like Shinya Oda, who's the Tower, who also is a young boy with an older woman playing his voice. Like, it's a thing where like if you don't know it, you might not notice it, but the second you know it, you start like kind of taking apart their voice acting, and like it makes them sound like less appropriate for the setting in a weird way.
Yeah, I can kind of get that. Like, I think the worst ever of that, like, this is completely off topic, but the idea of woman voicing male character, I think the worst ever is Goku, but that's just me.
I can see that.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's one of those things that, like, I noticed that.
Yeah, you can tell when it does happen.
Shinya Oda is, like, the worst about it.
Oh my god, I actually
like
just initiated that one, and it's not great.
The second you find out Shinya Oda is voiced by, like, an 80-year-old woman, you can't stop hearing it.
Well, I have a similar problem with that. It's not that he's voiced by an 80-year-old woman. It's that he's voiced by the voice actress who did Naota from Fooly Cooly.
Yes.
So that's all I can hear from him.
I forgot.
All I can hear is him complaining about sour drinks, and I'm just like, oh, I can't disassociate it.
Fucking bad.
It's pretty. Okay, we can't. But
anyway, like the point is that Morgana is a very divisive character.
among the three of us, I like Morgana, but I don't know. Like they kind of like rank. They don't rank like very high on like the character ranking list, but I still like them. You know. So,
I think we can all agree though that he is the sole owner of the worst part in the entire game.
Oh my god! More like I want to die.
Like, no, like I like Haru a lot as a character conceptually, even though she's underdeveloped. But like that whole August-September block is like it made me hate the game for like a good 10 or 12 hours.
Yes.
Well, it's not. I didn't hate it for 10 or 12 hours. Like I hated it for like the 45 minutes that cutscene lasts. But like, I was just like, the problem with it. The problem I have with it, the biggest problem I have with it is that the setup to it is actually really good because it's not like an overt thing. You just get these like. Morgana's always had his doubts about whether or not he's actually contributing to the team, and like every time someone's like, "Wait, you don't know what Mementos is?" He's always like, "Well, I just think this is how it, like." And so you get this good buildup of like he has his own doubts, and then here comes Futaba, and Futaba's great at everything she does, and it's like so he's like his role is kind of being overtaken, and that could have led to like really good character development for him. Instead, it leads to something stupid.
I literally cringed so hard that whole scene. I thought I was going to turn myself inside out. Like, I was, like, cringing that hard. Because I hate miscommunication tropes. They're always bad. They're hate
awful.
This. They're every single time, without fail, the miscommunication is the worst.
The worst part is, and I mentioned this earlier with the game sometimes being long in the tooth, is that this whole miscommunication scene takes, like, so many in-game days.
It takes like 4 days, like 4 or 5 days.
Those 4 days, I want to say like 2 or 3 of them, you could have just not had the scene, and the arc would have still made sense. Like there's that whole thing where it's like they try to do the wacky hijinks thing where they go down to Mementos and you're chasing around Morgana.
Oh my god, that is the part where I thought I was going to die.
And
I actually thought I was going to die.
That's a fun scene conceptually, but clearly no one actually like gave it enough passes because it sucks to play, and then also nothing happens, and then also you just continue to be more and more frustrated with the characters.
That whole incident lasted like at least 1, potentially 2 days.
Yeah. You literally could have had it be like they, like, hey, we've got to escape Okumura's palace, and then like the next scene could have been the bit in the alley with Haru and her fiance and Sugimura kicking, Morgana across an alley, and boom, you would have had it all resolved just like that, and it would have been just fine. We could have saved 2 whole days of this fucking game.
I feel like what I would have preferred if they really wanted to go down that, like, temporary split route is that if, like, chasing Morgana is what got you into Okumura's palace, like usual, but then you could continue the palace, but then, like, you didn't get Morgana back or Haru until you were, like, halfway through the palace.
Yeah, I think
and there's scenes throughout of you guys running into each other, and then it feels more organic, and then also, like, if you take your time, like, that's a split that could generally last a while, and that would be cool, but the problem is they did it in the dumb way.
Yeah. They did it in a way that didn't result in anything, and, like, Morgana's character... The problem with that bit is that Morgana's character development was between they either needed to speed it up, or they needed to draw it out even further, and have it be a mechanic thing where you are down party members for the time being.
Especially because Morgana is, like, an actual... Like, he can function as your primary healer. Like, that's an actual crippling thing to actually do here, and it's a good mechanic.
You'd have to rely on An and Makoto, who by that point wouldn't like Makoto gets it, but like but not till late. You wouldn't have a group healing spell.
Yeah, no, An doesn't have any group healing spells, and like Makoto has them, but she's like so behind the curve as far as like actual like effectiveness scaling goes.
Yeah, her magic score is so low that her healing is it recovers significantly less than An and Morgana's healing.
Either, but at that point she'd maybe have Meteora or like Meteorama.
No, she doesn't. She learns Diorama, and then I just did this part. I only got Meteorama halfway through Okumura's dungeon, and I'm grinding pretty significantly.
So like that would have been like a cool thing, but also like I feel like part of the thing that may have made this game better, just sort of as a point thing, is, like, when we're talking about Akechi, and we're talking about Morgana, and we're talking about, like, Ryuji's fake-out death and all that stuff, is if the game actually did things that, like, fucked with your party structure.
Yeah.
Like, imagine an alternate version of Persona 5 where, like, Akechi, or, like, Ryuji fucking dies after the cruise ship dungeon, but, like, you have Akechi, but also fucking Ryuji's dead.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't have access to him anymore.
Yeah, it would have been, like, I wish more JRPGs would actually, like, genuinely fuck with your party structure. This is off topic, but Tales of Zestiria, and Symphonia both do this, and I'm putting that in really powerful finger quotes because they don't. They kill off a they kill off a party member in Symphonia, and they kill off a party member in Zestiria, but the replacement party member has the exact same stats and skills, so it means nothing. Like, you know, from like a mechanical standpoint. And a lot of JRPGs, the last one I can actually think of that pulled the trigger on it, maybe it's because I haven't played a lot of JRPGs lately, except for Tales of and Persona, is Final Fantasy VII 20 years ago.
Yeah. It's, like, the only thing I can think of that does it even remotely similarly is kind of Fire Emblem, but Fire Emblem is also a different kind of game.
It's a different beast entirely.
Yeah,
aside from that,
really
JRPGs
RPG,
do not really fuck with your cast a whole lot, and it's kind of unfortunate because, like, it's not like Persona 5. I wouldn't say Persona 5 is written poorly, but it's, like, maybe an averagely written game in most respects. But if it had went to the extent to, like, double down and actually mess with your party comps at the end game when everything is getting really tense, it would have done a lot to make that kind of, like, batshit Shin Megami Tensei finale feel, like, more tense,
like an actual,
and more engaging.
Like an actual Mega 10 finale, yeah.
Well, I will say what I do like about that, to get off topic a little bit more, is that it does do... Because I remember you guys did the talk about it last week, and, like, we're kind of upset about it being a Persona 4 knockoff, basically.
Yeah.
And the thing, I will say, I agree, but also the thing that I appreciate it is that it does go back to the sort of, like, the Persona 1 and 2 roots of, like, the whole premise of the game is these two gods aren't sure if humanity is worth saving or not, so they set a stage to see how it shakes out.
Right.
And I like that, because it's like, I remember in Persona 3 and 4 being kind of frustrated. It's like, hey, there's all this Philemon symbolism from, like, the blue butterfly and Igor being there and shit like that, and it's just, like, not addressed or discussed. And in this one, they kind of, in a roundabout way, go back and be like, yeah, it's still a thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I wish they did more things to actually, like, get you... What's the word I'm thinking of here?
Engaged?
Yeah, I guess engaged. I wish they did
Maybe?
more things to, like, deliberately upset your comfort levels vis-a-vis, like, having a party that can just curb stomp everything.
And they wouldn't even have to kill off a party member. They just, like, but, like, since Persona is a game that's, like, rooted in each party member has their own specific role. Like, there's no spell crossing over. Like, offensively, everyone has their element. Everyone has, like, their thing. Like, removing a party member, even temporarily, can really hinder your progress in a dungeon. So, like, if you did have to go through part of Okumura's dungeon, which is pretty hard on its own, without a group healer, like, you could be in trouble.
I mean, yeah,
it's a weird
like
thing,
that.
'cause it's not like Persona hasn't done this before. Because I remember boss fights from, like, Persona 3 where it's like, hey, we're doing this boss fight. By the way, we're forcing you to use this party. And there's nothing you can do about it. So I hope you have Akihiko and Ken leveled.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have fun. But yeah, no, so we're already at the hour mark.
We're getting off topic though, so we should move on to we're only three characters deep,
and we're already at an hour.
We've been talking for like
Woohoo!
So we'll
Told you.
This is
so
welcome
we'll try
to
to
the
stay a
gorge,
little more-
Saturn.
I'm enjoying this. This is my natural state of being.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We'll try to stay a little more focused though, but like the next one would be the lovers on.
Oh boy. Where to start?
Let's get the salt out of the way first. On's got the worst party member social
for
link.
sure. 100,000% worst party member social link. Oh my god.
It is like, I'm not gonna say criminal because it's like a huge exaggeration, but it's like very upsetting how she's like literally the third party member you get, and she has a social link that I would argue is less developed than Haru's, who is a criminally underdeveloped character.
Yes.
Yeah, like, well, the problem with, like, it's ironic you say that, because, like, I think Haru has Haru and Ryuji have, like, two of the most focused social links in the game, And Ans is just all over the... is it about her guilt over Shiho? Is it about her modeling career? Is it about the fucking bitch?
Yeah, is it about the fact that she wants to be like an action movie star? What the... Yeah, is it about the bitch? Is it about the bitch?
Haru's Social Link, very good, and like her whole thing is like, oh, the game does not give her enough screen time outside of it.
Right.
And like she suffers for that. But for Anne, it's like they introduce her at the beginning of the game and give her nothing to do, and then also give her like a boring, scattered social link.
It is. I dread. I maxed it out as fast as I could just so I wouldn't have to fucking do it.
Oh, it's really great.
Exactly.
On my second playthrough, which I finished because Al my girlfriend was on vacation during my first one, and she wanted to play through the game, so I played through the second time with her. She decided like, hey, let's romance Anne this time. I'm like, okay, and we do that very early in the game. Like I think we have our social link maxed out by like, I don't know, July or something like that. And the fun part is that no longer, I don't know if you had to do this in Persona 4, but in Persona 3, like, if you wanted to keep your romantic relationship with someone, you had to social link with them a lot.
Right.
But, like, in Persona 5, they don't do that. And also, like, character dialogue never changes based on your relationship status.
Yeah.
So it's like we started dating Anne in July and just, like, never talked to her ever again. And then we had, like, a romantic scene at Christmas, and it was like, okay.
And the Valentine's Day scene, and that's like it. Like, whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, her social link is so... What is going on?
It should have picked between one of the 2 or 3 things. Like, is it about her guilt of not helping Shiho? Like, yeah, you could have done bits where she has to go to Shiho's therapy, and like she has like 1 or 2 scenes where she's like, yeah, I saw Shiho in so much pain that I couldn't take it, and I feel like a coward for bailing on her.
Or, like, God forbid, have a scene where she's actually like, hey, I have to go to Shiho's physical therapy, want to come with?
Right. To me, it's like, the parts where it is about An and Shiho and all that fucking horrible stuff they had to go through, that's when An's social link is really, really good, because as bland and boring and scattered as An's social link is, the bit on the roof with Shiho is one of the few.
Really good.
It's so good. It's
really good moment.
Emotionally moving. Even the second time me playing through it, the bit where like Shiho hugs her and says like, "I love you, An." I was like tearing up, and I'm like, I hate this social link. Why am I crying? Like,
yeah.
Like, because it's so it has such good, like, an emotional hook, and it has a lot of depth, and it just feels like if you had the whole social link be about that, we could have had something beautiful.
Yeah.
Because the thing about the Shiho part of that social link is that that's the one that actually deals with Anne, like, interacting with other humans.
Yeah.
And, like, having feelings and having a complicated and hurt past.
Right.
And, like, having to learn how to cope with that as a human being, which is very interesting. And the other half of it is her having a feud with this, like, completely irredeemable bitch.
Yeah, who, by the way, never gets her comeuppance, even for lying to other models about the scheduling.
Yeah, it's really great.
It's really bizarre that this rando bitch has her own portrait. Like, I don't know why that bothers me so much,
who
but
cares?
why does this bitch, who is in, like, 2 scenes, have her own fucking portrait, and, like, other characters who are, like, kind of important don't? Like, just, like, little side fucking characters don't have portraits. I don't understand.
The thing that bothers me most about this, like, accepting everything else, is that this is social link, like, for all of its scatterbrainness or whatever, would probably be appropriate for, like, a side character like Oya or whatever. But this is, like, the third party member you get.
Yeah, this is a main character who, like, you're going to spend most of the game with this character. Like, you'd better make sure their social link is developed.
Yeah,
and it's an
not.
insult to injury thing too, because on top of this, like, she's also one of the unfortunate party members where, like, the main plot never gives her anything to do.
Yeah.
It's like Yusuke has that problem too, but Yusuke also has, like, a focused social link and a kind of funny character and good interactions with other characters, and, like, I can't think of a single interesting interaction Anne had with, like, any of the other main characters, which seems like a bad writing oversight.
In my notes, I put down that like, as much as I like An's character, and I like An's, like, I like this idea. She's really sweet. She has a soft heart. She cries easily. She has all these, she loves she adores eating cake. Like, all of these dumb little fun character quirks that make her an interesting character and somebody who you'd, like, genuinely want to be friends with. But then they kind of had to do this thing where, like, nobody gets flanderized in this game harder than An, because, like, the beginning of the game, she kind of comes across as, like, a little shrewd. Like, really kind of, like, she's rightfully kind of suspicious of, like Ryuji and Akira, because it's like, you two are clearly up to some shit. And, like, I want to know what shit you're up to. Like, so she has these kind of, like, these moments of, like, shrewdness in the beginning of the game where she's a little bit, like, colder, but not, like, in a bad way, just kind of, like, in a guarded way, and it seems like, oh, that's interesting. And then, like, pretty much as soon as she joins the party, they just really overplayed the whole airheaded ditz aspect of her character. And after that point, I'm just like, I like An. I really do. But the way they kind of kept playing up this whole, like, dumbness aspect of her character, it was just such a fucking drag.
Yeah.
I really would. I was thinking about this because I just got to that scene. I got to the scene. I would have just taken, like, one little alternating to her dialogue, but I would have appreciated it if, like, when you do the Hawaii trip, if she was annoyed at all the girls who come up to her and ask her to translate things for them.
Yeah, because, like, all of those girls were fucking bitches to you, and now, like, they all want to hang out. Like, why?
Now that she's useful?
Yeah. Well, that's also, like, another kind of weird hang-up I have about the game, and this is, like, only tangentially related to An, but, like, An is, like, as far as I know, the one character in the game that is, like, very explicitly, very canonically, like, mixed race.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a game that's supposed to be about individuals ostracized from society and kind of having to, like, make their own truth and all that, that it's really... I mean, I guess I can't say I'm surprised or anything, but it's almost a little disappointing if there's no, like, attention paid to, like, ideas of racial homogeneity in Japan that actually have negative effects on minorities and things like that.
Right.
And I don't necessarily expect it to, because this is Atlas we're talking about, but at the same time I feel like it's a thing where, like, hey, in this mythical that exists in my dreams better version of Persona 5, maybe there's a different character who's mixed race who actually has to deal with, like, you know, the fact that they are looked at differently. And that might have been a more interesting thing to have in Anne's social link, where she has to deal with, like, hey, like, I like people and I try to act normal, but, like, I'm looked at differently. And it's only ever mentioned as, like, once offhandedly in April about how, like, sometimes she used to consider dyeing her hair so she'd fit in, and it's never addressed again.
Yeah, and it's like, I just feel there could have just been more to kind of get her involved in the plot, because, again, as a character, I like An's whole character traits. I like her goofiness and all that good stuff. But it just kind of feels like she just has a strange involvement with the plot after a while. She's just kind of, like, I don't know. She's just
Anne feels like a character where someone was like, I have this idea for a cool party member, and they talked about it, and they gave the pitch, and that pitch is basically Anne, you know, and all the things that make Anne, and someone's like, cool, that's a cool idea for a character, we'll throw her in there, and then we'll come back and refine her and focus her later, and then they never did that.
Right, yeah, I feel that. But yeah, it's just...
Like, kind of feels like they could have given it one more, like, pass, but at the same time, I'm glad I got to play this game now and not in a year.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think I could have managed another delay.
If I had to like say anything about the theoretical dream version of Persona 5, like, I feel like this is a game that could have used, like, another year or so in the oven, and not because, like, I would have been able to deal with the delay, but because it's a game that I feel like only existed in its current form, like, very late into development.
Right.
Like, it kind of smacks of a game where it's like, oh god, the thing we did wasn't working, let's just try and, like, put together something that does work. Kind of like, do you know anything about the original Borderlands development?
No, but I do know it sounds a lot like Final Fantasy 15.
Here's the thing with the original Borderlands, is that game was in development for a long time.
Right.
And, like, it was like a kind of gritty dystopian shooter or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I do remember those.
And eventually, in, like, 2008, or whenever the game was about to come out, like, a year before launch, some of the teams, like, oh god, our game is so boring and it sucks, it's gonna die. And they rebuilt the entire game more or less from scratch in a year.
Oh my god.
And then they shipped it.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I really would like to know. I'm desperate for a documentary about the development of Persona 5, because so much of it feels like they had a bunch of ideas, and then they threw out a bunch of ideas, and then somebody at Sega was like, hey, you gotta make it more like Persona 4, and so they added those, and then, like, we got kind of, like, the game we got, which is a game I love, because I've played it 2.5, going on 2 times now, and put an absolutely absurd number of hours into, but, I'm already at, like, 100.
I'm at 178.
Something.
God, I think I'm at 180 something.
Yeah, so we're
for comparison, Saturn. I'm at 4 combined playthroughs of Persona 4 at 330 hours. So I'm going to bypass Persona 4 easily.
I think I played like 3, 4, and 5 both, like all of them. I think about twice so far. I'm definitely going to finish a 3rd playthrough of 5 at the very least.
Yeah,
because I need to get me that ultimate Persona.
Ooh, gotta max that compendium. God knows
they're not very hard to make, but the problem is, for
expensive.
as nice as the Strength Social Link and ultimate feature is, very pricey. Very
pricey. Very
I saved
pricey.
up like
Ridiculous.
literally 3 million yen, like enough money that I could like theoretically in game, if it paid attention to those kind of things, it completely surpassed the Kanashiro subplot. Like if I wanted to, and I do all of it, summoning personas.
That would be hilarious if he's like, you need to pay me 3 million yen, and Akira's like, here.
And then you just never do his dungeon.
You just never have to do his dungeon ever.
Yeah.
And, Akira just whips out a checkbook and is like, I got you, fam, and you're done.
And like maybe it's a bad end or whatever, like Makoto's not convinced of your justice and she rats on you or something like that. But still, like, I would love if
it would be hilarious
for that. Like if you had that much money, if you just be like, here you go, 3 million yen.
That would be amazing! Oh man, that's such a good idea.
I really think they are going to do Persona 5 the Crimson.
For sure.
So, like, hopefully a lot of these things will be fixed.
Different, like the Crown Jewels or something like that.
Oh,
like,
that's a good one. We were saying Switch.
Or like Red Carpet Edition or something like that.
Ooh.
No, they should just do Persona 5 Switch, and then just put it on the Switch so that I can play it wherever I want.
That's what really matters. That's the only... Really, the Persona 4 the Golden taught me something really, really important, guys. The most important thing in the universe.
What's
I
that?
love having Persona in my goddamn purse. It's the best feeling in the world. To play P5 and, like, only have to play it in my house, I was like, no, come back.
I got a Vita just for Persona 4 the Golden, and then
we
when
did
Persona
too.
4 the Golden came
did
out, I proceeded to sit on my bed and marathon it for 4 days.
We did something kind of like that too, but still, I mean, I could still carry it to work, and when I had my Vita, now I have a Vita TV, so like whatever. But yeah, like I'm really hoping that our version of the Golden is the Switch, because listen, if this game can run on the PS3, and it does in Japan, it can run on the Switch. Like it can run just fine.
Easy.
I'm not sure what I feel like that's a port that's not going to happen for a while, but
I know.
I feel like it's a port that makes sense and would be appreciated.
And
well, Atlas is making a game for the Switch,
I'm not sure if they it depends when that game's going to come out. Like, if that game's still, like, a couple years out, they might do it before then, but, like, there's no way they'd release a Persona 5 port and SMT5 at the same time.
Yeah, because it would destroy SMT5. That's the world we live in now.
Well, not just that. It's, like, it's, like, one of those things, like fucking Econ 101, where it's, like, oh, hey, that's, like, market cannibalization. Like, we'd be sending out 2 products at the same time, and they'd both reduce each other's sales, so we're not going to do that.
So... okay.
Anyway, we're still getting off topic. So
it's fine. That's what this whole podcast is about. It's fine.
So the next character is the Emperor Yusuke Kitagawa, who is the
best boy.
Yeah, he's very good. He's like,
I love this Waluigi.
this strange noodle tank.
he's one of those characters that's like, oh, I'm disappointed that the game's story like doesn't give him enough things to do / contrives reasons for him to be in scenes that he otherwise would have no reason to be in, but at the same time his character itself is good enough that I don't care.
Right.
Well, it's funny because like I mentioned earlier, like I like that Ryuji is your tank character, and he's actually an athlete who has a consistent workout regimen and has a reason for being buff. And then the game goes, yeah, but fuck you, Yusuke's stronger, and he is a beanpole.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
It's the aesthetic.
It's the aesthetic. It's fine. It's so funny to me because I joke a lot that after a certain point in this game, your strategy becomes pass the baton to Yusuke. That's it. It's the scene in Rick and Morty. What is my function? You exist to pass the baton to Yusuke. That's what Morgana is for. Morgana's Lucky Punch is basically a Yusuke power-up button. Like, that's it.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yep.
Well, the alternative because I never used Yusuke too much, but what I did do is that I always had Akira and Morgana with a Lucky Punch or Miracle Punch, and I would just basically use that in the late game to completely avoid having to deal with finding enemy weaknesses or consuming SP, and I would just knock the entire enemy team flat on their ass with Miracle Punches only.
That's great. It's amazing, and that's that's what Yusuke is for, is to just pass the baton to Yusuke, and it's like an instant kill button because it boosts his strength, his attack so high, and he already has the highest strength in the game.
And he has a skill that buffs up when you baton pass to him.
Now, if only you could actually get knockdowns on bosses. You can't, which is bullshit. Because then he would be the best.
Fine.
I know.
Yeah, but he also has, counterattack, so, a fourth of the attacks will just bounce off him anyway.
Great.
God, thinking about Lucky Punch strat makes me want to die, because I've heard the phrase bona fide so many times that if you played it to me in I would activate, a sleeper agent and kill the president.
But...
It's so...
Oh my... But, Yusuke's so great because he's the best kind of comic relief. In that he's so serious about everything he does that it's funny.
You think he's the straight man, but he's actually the buffoon.
He's the buffoon, and he's so and they play it so well because like Saturn said, they're Yusuke really doesn't contribute that much to the main plot, but it's
and the game
fine.
has to find excuses for him to be there,
but
I stormed diverted to Hawaii, or
Listen,
my finals are already over.
Yeah.
It's fine because it's hilarious in this case.
It's fine because I love him and he is my very, very good boy.
He's my good.
Yeah, he is a good boy.
Matthew Mercer himself calls him my soft artist boy. That's all you need to know.
Are you kidding me?
I'm dead
Love
serious.
that.
Somebody asked him at a convention, and he referred to Yusuke as his soft artist boy. And that's literally all you need to know about Yusuke, is that even his voice actor is completely in love with him. Okay?
I'm fucking glad.
No, I love that, when you're, he's such a wooby about it, or, I love that every time someone's, they complain about money, or, Yusuke complains he doesn't get dinner, Ryuji's hey, man, do you want to go get some noodles after this?
One of my favorite incidental, the little mementos chats you can get, the best one is when Yusuke says, everybody told me to keep a low profile at school, but nobody talks to me anyways. And Ryuji goes, hey, do you, want to hang out? And I'm just yes! The purest boys! It's so good!
It's really good.
It's so funny! And, I just want this game to let me feed him, please.
I love that he buys lobsters, and he has no intention of actually cooking them, and I guarantee he's kept those lobsters.
He explicitly says that he bought the lobsters to look at them. It's great.
Yeah, so he just has some pet lobsters in his dorm now, and I'm convinced the school allowed it because I'm convinced everyone in that school is like Yusuke, and they're just these eccentric because. The other person you meet from his school is Hifumi, and she's also a fucking weirdo.
Exactly.
And he has incidental mementos dialogue where he says, the principal in our school, our school store has a poetry book that was written by our principal.
So everybody is like this.
So I'm just convinced everyone's just as fucking weird as him.
So, my favorite, probably the funniest thing about the lobsters, and there's a lot really funny about the lobsters, but he says... When he brings the lobsters at the beach, he says that when he saw them, they reminded him of the first time he saw An. So basically he's saying a pair of fucking lobsters are as beautiful as An Takamaki, which is tremendous.
It just shows you where his priorities lie. And because that's actually one of my favorite details of his introductory character arc, is that he's kind of framed as this fucking predatory creeper ass dude who's trying to pick up this hot girl, and you realize no, he just genuinely thinks An would be fun to paint.
Yeah, he's just a kind of weirdo.
It's great.
And, like...
It's really good.
The only problem I have with anything to do with Yusuke, because Yusuke is basically perfect as far as I'm concerned, is that, like, why does this game keep wanting me to drag Yusuke Kitagawa? Like, why is, like, when you're at the beach, why is the only option to call him weird or call him a pervert? Listen to me. He's perfect, Atlas. There's nothing wrong with this boy. How dare you insult my son like this? He is a good-hearted soul. When he cries, the tears are made out of diamonds. That's how perfect Yusuke Kitagawa is. Don't tell me to insult him, you piece of shit game.
We talked earlier about, like, how Akira is, like, definitely the coolest protagonist in like, the 3 games that people have actually played. But I will say, I would have appreciated him more if he was more like Seto Soji from Persona 4 The Golden and had options to, instead of being the dude bro, just, like, sort of be like, yeah, Kanji's cool.
Yeah, Kanji's the coolest.
There's a scene in Golden where it's like, hey, who do you want to see in swimsuits the most, huh? And he's be like, Kanji.
It's so
I was like,
true.
oh, thanks, dude. It's great.
Yeah.
There's a few scenes with Yusuke. My favorite one is there's one where he can hang out at your house during the summer, and he's like, God, it's so hot in here. Like, you don't have any AC, and you just be like, yeah, just take your shirt off. And he's like, oh, that's a great idea, and it develops your bond with him.
No. Someone pointed out, like, the best thing ever is that Yusuke only comes to your house when it's torrential raining.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh, Yusuke. He's
What
so
a very,
beautiful.
very good boy.
He's a good boy!
No, my favorite thing, like, he also has a really good confidant. Like, his is actually really good. Like, his struggling as an artist, and it has some of the funniest bits where they're in the church.
The suffering like Jesus bit? Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, where they do JoJo poses. It's great. I will say, actually... Oh,
but
actually,
my favorite, though...
No, you go ahead, because the thing I'm saying will be a tangent.
Okay, so my favorite is that after he has that where the artist, the manager guy is like, we'll sell your appearance as the starving artist or whatever, and Yusuke, tells him off, and he walks out, after Yusuke's done fuming, he's like, well, the sushi didn't do anything to offend us, so we might as well just enjoy it. And I want to believe that, like, because he storms out, like, the guy is like, all right, well, I can see you're not happy. Enjoy your meal and bill it to my office. I want to believe that Akira's like, why don't we just order, like, a few more rolls,
A few more
and
dozen
stuff.
rolls, no big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and the guy, like, gets the bill sent, and, like, it cartoon style, like, unfurls.
The floor.
And he's like, well played.
I could be mistaken. I believe Yusuke is canonically a Taurus. Which I think explains a lot about his decision to just be like, well, let's just sit here and enjoy the sushi while we're here.
Or the best where like they have the very, very realistic of text messages being interrupted. Where it's, I am in the mood.
And then Makoto says something.
And then he goes for something salty. And it's like, that's also very realistic, but there's such a fucking funny bit.
Shithead, I love him.
He's a shithead. That's exactly it. And it's just, everything he does is so funny. He gets the best awakening. Like, his other than Makoto, other than Makoto, he gets the best awakening with the dragging his fingers and bloodied and ripping off the mask. And all of his lines are really cool. And just, like, he's beautiful. Like, everything about him is just the best.
My loving girlfriend has corrected me that Yusuke is in fact an Aquarius, so I'm just full of shit.
Oh, okay.
I'm full of shit.
You're full of shit.
I'm confusing with Naruto,
like, it's
who's
funny.
also very good.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because, like, Yusuke is both, like, the fucking coolest and also a total dweeb. Because, yeah, his awakening is cool, and his cut-in portrait is
That's so
best!
cool! Like, we're getting back into last week,
and he
where
does
we're like,
the
cool, but everything about Yusuke is actually really cool when he's not being a weirdo.
He's got that cool Iaijutsu style of sword fighting, where he sheaths it, and he unsheaths it every time.
Yeah,
and
it's really good.
And then he also fucking buys lobsters. So what are you gonna do?
Like I was going to say earlier, since we were talking about his good-ass social link, I think one of the things his social link does, which I think the game wanted to do, and I would have appreciated some of the villain writing more, I think if it did more of this, is that the game has a problem in a few things where it's like, oh, we can't decide if we want to write it this way or write it this way. Mm-hmm. And most of the game spends time, like, being with the villains, like, yeah, these are, like, unapologetic horrible monsters, and you should hate them, and it's just because they're awful. But what I like that Yusuke's social link does is for Madarame is that it kind of paints this picture as Madarame of someone who used to be like a normal, if decent person who's maybe even in the same kind of scenario that Yusuke's in, and the difference between him and Yusuke is that when he had the choice to like do a heroic thing and like be true to himself and to do a horrible thing, he chose to do the horrible thing, and that's why Madarame became Madarame.
Right.
And it's like an aspect of, I think, like the act of being expulsed, I suppose, from society, being like a willful decision and like the result of a personal like statement of your beliefs that like may or may not like adhere to moral standards, I think is really interesting. And I wish all the villains got that treatment, because it's like Madarame is my favorite of them, because like aside from I guess technically Sai, who I wouldn't consider a villain but is still like a boss, like, he's my favorite of the actual villains, because he's like someone who's like, oh, he used to be decent, and then like he made the decision to be bad one day, and like he had the same decision to make as we did, and he chose that, and that's why they're like that, and that's why he's my favorite, because he has depth.
We talked about it a little bit last week, and like out of all of the bosses and all of the like actual villains, like Madarame's crimes are relatively minor in comparison to the heinous shit the other ones get up to.
And even if they weren't, like, the game does make a conscious effort to make you understand where Madarame is coming from.
Yeah,
because Madarame is coming from a place that's like, it's not moral or like excusable, but it's understandable that like you have this guy who's like struggling with being like completely destitute and like the possibility of living a life as a literal starving artist who is just not recognized or whatever, and won't achieve any kind of fame if ever, or if he does, like probably after he dies and his work becomes worth millions, and he takes the opportunity to escape that life through doing something immoral. And it's like, oh, I can see how like a real ass person who isn't like a Disney cartoon villain could make this decision. And like people like Kamoshida don't get that, and like Kaneshiro kind of does in the respect of like, oh, Kaneshiro grew up poor and like learned to just be hungry, and he's this shithead because he's hungry, but it's still not like but Kaneshiro sucks. But it's like they don't go to nearly the extent to humanize the other villains that they do for Madarame, and it's weird because like I appreciate Madarame so much more as a character because he's not a one-note like character.
Asshole.
Yeah.
So like everything around Yusuke is just like so good. Yusuke's a good boy. He's my good boy.
Yeah, he's good. I like Yusuke a lot.
Speaking of great characters, the best girl is Makoto Nijima.
Makoto is truly the best. Is truly best girl of all of the playable girls, because she is one, incredibly plot relevant. At pretty much every single term, the game would be completely different if Makoto was not there. And two, I mean, like, she's just awesome. We were saying badass awakening sequences, but truly, I mean, Makoto Nijima cracked a tile floor with her pissed off bitch stomps. You can't top that, sorry. She has a fucking motorcycle as a persona. Shut up! Like, everything about Makoto, I just adore.
Makoto is honestly, like, one of the best written characters in all of Persona. I'm going to say that. And I feel like part of that is because like they do the thing to give her the cool girl stuff. Like they give her some of like Naoto's kind of investigative things and like some of Mitsuru's like brilliance and connections and things like that. But they also like, because to lean back to Persona 4 a bit, like Naoto is a very cool character, but the problem is like Naoto also like feels like a cartoon character where they have like very like extravagant origins and like incredibly like loud aesthetics and tastes. But for Makoto, like Makoto's this like kind of extraordinary, like kind of normal seeming woman, and then she has these little touches like you can give your confidants gifts, and there's this thing where like, oh, you can get a fucking like cool motorcycle figure, and like of course she'd like that because she has a cool motorcycle persona. But when you give it to her, she gushes like, oh, I've been wanting this. It has all these details and these custom parts, and you can kind of arrange it and thing. And she kind of geeks out a little bit about this anime motorcycle figure. And it's thing like, oh, this is like a real teen human.
This is like an actual person who is also just a huge badass.
And it's cool because like compared to like, it's not like Persona is like filled with like strictly unrealistic characters or everything, but she feels like she was written based on someone who exists that someone knew, because like she has all these little touches in her character that make her feel like someone actually put thought into her being like a person.
Yeah. Like
it's
an actual,
cool.
she gets really, really excited to see a Yakuza movie to the point where she's sitting at the edge of her seat with her hands like clenched in front of her, and she's just so, and like, I have been there. I have been that chick in a movie theater where I'm just like leaning forward because I am so like into it. Like, those are like the most relatable teen girl things ever, because she's supposed to be like Miss Student Council President. She doesn't do anything like, you know, outside of the norms for the straight A student or whatever. But then she has these things that just make her seem, you know, like really relatable. And I love so many of those little details about her. I love the part in her social link. And like, I think her social link is good, but it's not great. Like, it's okay. It's good. You know, like, it's
fine.
good. It's
It's passable.
But the best part of that social link is the fact that she makes friends, good friends with the ditzy girl.
Yeah.
How great
absolutely.
is that? Like, just the fact that the next time you see her, she's like, oh yeah, I've been talking to, I can't remember what her name is right now, sorry.
Eiko,
like,
I think?
Eiko.
Yeah, Eiko,
She's
Eiko,
been
yeah,
talking
that's
to
Eiko.
Eiko, and she's like really excited about it, and she's just like, she's made a friend because they have the same taste in goofy Sanrio style cartoon characters. Yeah. How great is that? You know, the fact that Eiko is like, I will send you pictures of my little Sanrio character collection. How cute!
Yeah.
It's so endearing.
It's really good.
And
then also, I mean, following up on that, she has like the most badass moment ever, where she's like daring a grown man
in
to
a
hit her
public place, and she's like, I will fucking thrash you if you put a hand on me. And
that ties to something I really like about her character, and it's that like she has this sort of like stated desire of like, oh, I want to be a police commissioner, or I want to be a cop or whatever, and like all my family's law enforcement, and I want to adhere to that. And like every one of her interests and like a lot of the social decisions she makes, especially when confronting that one dickbag and like going to see movies and stuff, like there's a lot of connections to her sort of core desire. And like she views the world in this kind of way, like she views herself as a heroic cop, basically.
Yes!
And it's cool because it actually then reflects on who she is in the metaverse, and it feels like really thoughtfully developed, and I love it.
and she has, I mean, like, even to the point that her first year persona is a pope. Like, that is the kind of character that she views herself as, where she wants to be this like upstanding figure of like moral goodness, and not in like the societal version of moral goodness. She wants to be like a beacon of what she thinks is her own justice, which is like what her persona says to her when she does her awakening, is that you finally found your own justice. You haven't decided to follow the laws of like societal justice. You have looked at the world, you've seen that adults are shitty, and you've decided, fuck it, I'm going to do what I can do to prove my justice to the world. And it is the most tremendous scene in the game. I get so excited about this character because she's so cool.
Good.
She's
so great.
Cool. Everything she does is just, I mean, she's like the weird mom friend, but she's also like the will fight a dude in a crowded street in the red light district friend. And
not only fight him, like dare him to swing first,
because she knows she can take it.
Will willfully endanger herself to infiltrate a mob boss's hideout because she thinks she's Kazuma fucking Kiryu, and it rules.
No, my favorite thing ever is that someone actually like drew the picture of her getting a copy of Yakuza 0, and I'm like, that's 100% canon.
She goes home and plays it every night.
She would play Yakuza 0 and then text everyone about what happened when she was playing Yakuza 0.
She dreams of owning a white suit.
Yeah.
I want to believe, like I wish I could take her to Iwai. You know? Like, I just wish I could be like...
Yeah.
Right? I wish I could be like, this is my friend Iwai. He was in the Yakuza. And then I want to watch her just vibrate out of her skin because she's so excited. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want. I want to introduce Makoto Nijima to Munehisa Iwai. Like, that's all I want, really. You know?
That's all I want.
Or like there's that bit in Shido's palace where you actually meet a Yakuza enforcer, and I just want to imagine like Makoto's just like vibrating.
Yeah.
She's like, this is the coolest ever!
It's so good.
I finally met him, my real dad.
Yeah, but no, that's the most ironic thing, is that she's very clearly, like, obsessed with, like, Yakuza and, like, crime dramas, and her dad's, like, a moral justice
who was
upright
probably killed
cop.
by the fucking Yakuza. Like, to me, like, that's even the more interesting thing. But, like, the thing is, like, her dad is a cop. Like, let's be real for a minute. It's probably her dad's fault that she's like this. Like, if anybody was sitting around watching badass Yakuza movies when she was a kid, it was her dad. You know?
Absolutely.
And so, like, she just picked up on all this crazy shit from him, and so, like, now it's just that, man, the Yakuza are fucking cool. Like, that's it. That's all there is to it. Like, as a concept, it's fucking cool, and she understands. Like,
it's great.
She's great. I mean, she's so good, and she's, like, as such a change from An and Yusuke, and I mean, she is vitally plot important. She's
super
like,
tied in. Like, to the point where, like, she's flat out is Akira's second in command.
For sure. Like, she kind of is what makes the group's wheels turn after a certain point. She's so just, like, you know, she knows what needs to be done. She knows that they need plans. I mean, like, the whole 6th dungeon is about her and her relationship with her sister. I mean, she gets all the good, like, kind of like those emotionally touching scenes where she's talking to Sai's shadow and, like, changes her heart without ever actually needing to steal the treasure, which is, I think, the coolest part of, one of the cooler parts of P5, is that, like, she manages to change Sai's feelings about the Phantom Thieves and about justice and stuff like that without ever once actually touching her treasure. She just has a conversation with her now that Sae is there, kind of, to actually have a conversation with and willing to listen. Like, to me, that is one of the most tremendous parts of her character arc, is that she can convince her sister, who's kind of like at the end of her rope when it comes to her own justice. She can convince her sister to have a softening enough to listen to Akira when Akira is in the interrogation room a few hours later. I think that's great. I mean, I just think it's so...
Makoto and our next character that we're going to talk about are, I think, the two of the main party that were, like, definitely conceptualized after Persona 5 became, like, the game that it is now.
Right.
Because there is no way the plot works without either of them.
Yeah, it does... The game does not move without Makoto and Nijima.
And before we move on, I just want to, like, address one more grievance about her, and that Japanese writers did not think about how her name would translate into English. Because it is 7 letters long, and 4 of them have dots above them, and they are all in a row. And it is this weird chunk.
It's a lot of... It's very dotty. And it's a funny thing. It's fine. It's just... It's hilarious to me to, like, I write this name out, and we were talking the other day, like, we were texting, and I had written Nijima out a few times, and finally Ben was like, I gotta tell you, there's a third eye. I'm like, what? There's a third eye. There's
2 eyes after N and 1 after J.
It's weird, but yeah, that's just a dumb, stupid thing, but, like, I feel it. And it's funny, like, not to, you know, I know that we have already been talking for a long time, but it's fine. Despite, like, how, like, totally plot important Makoto is and how vital she is to the game, like, man, Kaneshiro is a whole lot of not much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just kind of, like, he's there to be the villain, and then he just, like, you don't even get to see him confess. Like, Sai is just, we call him.
They have to shoehorn him into relevance later by being like, oh, Shido's money was tied to the criminal operations that Madarame and Kaneshiro were doing. And it's like, it kind of sucks because I feel like there's good, like, potential for a character like Kaneshiro, because, like, I feel like his sort of origins and, like, transference into villainhood is, like, kind of well thought out, and he's like, don't do anything with it.
The only thing I could think of they could do to, like, immediately make it a connection is have Kaneshiro be someone who was directly or was the exact cause of her dad's murder.
And even then, that feels like such a reach, you know? Like, I get it. You know, it just kind of feels like... Yeah. It would just be the same plot twist with Madarame and, you know, Yusuke's mom. Yeah. You know? So, like, even then, like, I don't know how you can make Kaneshiro more relevant. Like, they tried at the end of the game, like Saturn said, and it just didn't really work. Because then it just made Shido seem like an almost unrealistic criminal mastermind instead of just an asshole politician. So yeah, like, I don't know. But that's like my only grievance with Makoto. Really, I have no other complaints about her whatsoever. But, like, that's it. So yeah, she's great. Next.
You know what else is great?
Futaba.
Fucking Futaba Sakura.
Who is
Futaba Sakura, the other party member who is, like, indispensable for the plot to work.
Probably even more so than Makoto, honestly.
You could definitely make that argument, yeah.
But, like, I joke, I was like, Makoto is best girl, but, like, Futaba might be best girl, too. But, like, don't romance Futaba or you're going to hell. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Futaba is best girl, Makoto is best woman.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Makoto is a woman.
Yeah, perfect. Because, like...
She's my waifu. 100%. Makoto is definitely my waifu. It's fine.
She's, like, basically canon. It's fine.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pretty much. Like... But Futaba's... I love this weird... inkling.
Yeah, pretty much.
She's just a squid kid. She's just a kid. She's a squid. She's a kid.
Like, I imagine that, like, because you know, since there are a bunch of teenagers in 2016 Japan, that of course they shitpost in the group chat all the time.
Of course.
And every so often someone will see it in Akihabara, and they will text a picture of the girl Inkling amiibo, and they will be like, Futaba,
Look,
is this
you?
you?
It's basically.
God.
I mean, that's basically it. And I mean, I love this strange little goblin child. I love
her catchphrases.
all of her stupid, like, make like a cheetah and dash out of my room. They're awful, and I love every single one of them.
I love the Boke Tsukome kind of fucking chemistry she has with Yusuke.
Yes!
Especially. Where they're both just, like, these two recluse weirdos in different ways. So, like, she's like, hey, Yusuke, you can't just do this. And Yusuke's like, what do you mean I can't just do this? I'm doing the thing. I'm rearranging all your Power Rangers figures. Don't they look so much better now?
And then they have this stupid argument. Oh, it's great. What?
My favorite is, there's two. There is when Yusuke does buy the lobsters, and they have that really oddly well animated loop of Futaba trying to grab them and Yusuke, like, moving him out of the way at just the right time.
It's so funny. Like, the comedic timing there is, like, ideal, because it's just, he jerks them away just right, and because he is, you know, a noodle tank, he is so much taller than her that, like, the physical comedy there works really well, too. Like, it is hilarious, without fail.
And also, the best between them is in Shido's palace.
Fucking puns? Like, yeah.
Where he does the mice puns. My advice is that we squeak with caution. No. And then he's like, and then Futaba doesn't react, and he's like, Futaba, I said my advice is to squeak. And she's like, we heard you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because there's, like, at no previous point has Yusuke shown any penchant for making puns.
It's just part of, like, his weird-ass character is to just make dumb puns all the time. Or to make dumb puns, like, when he needs to make dumb puns. And, like...
Yeah.
I think my favorite, like, of all of the weird little quirky things about Futaba's character, God save me, I love her weird gremlin noises. Her little...
Her weird, like, anxious noise.
Like, that little, like, grunty noise she does, it's great. Because I, like, without even saying a word, I know what she's thinking. I'm like, same.
Right?
Yeah.
She has that beautiful, like, anxious, like, groaning noise.
Well, that's part of, like, why Futaba is also a very well-written character, is because, like, oh, hey, she's, like, total social recluse and has, like, no inkling of, like, communicative ability in her body or whatever, but she is, as a result, like, so, like, her communication in a lot of terms, like, especially with, like, those noises, is, like, so completely without any kind of artifice or construct that she is conveying the exact emotion she is trying to get across.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's great, because, like, I think even, like, just all of her little awkwardnesses are so, like, they're relatable in a way, and even though the fact she's, like, a, you know, like, a very... Technically, Futaba as a character is really unrelatable because she's a, you know, 15-year-old hacker super genius, whatever, you know? Like,
she's a bit of a Naoto.
Yeah, she's a bit of a Naoto, but unlike Naoto, like, the way it's kind of handled, because we joked in the P4 podcast, Naoto never shuts the fuck up, is... It's so true, shut up, you know I'm right. Is that Futaba sometimes underexplains things because she just kind of assumes everybody is really smart. And, like, that actually is handled a lot better. Just because the way she kind of just approaches things, and she's very straightforward about, you know, all, like you said, Saturn, all of her emotions are kind of out there in the open, even though she can be kind of clumsy in expressing them sometimes. And it's just, she has a great social link, even though I don't know why the whole creepy parents thing had to be brought in. It's fine, I get it, but like, what is up with this game?
I think they did. I think they were just like, oh shit, we need a conflict for the social link. Okay, child trafficking.
Trafficking.
Yeah, they're like, let's add more allusions to sexual assault in this game because they didn't have any.
Have enough of them apparently.
Yeah, it was very, very. It was like so out of left because like it could have been about, hey, I need to talk to a friend that I haven't spoken to in a while. That's weird for me. I need help talking to a friend. Like, you could have just left it as that, and that would also be, like, enough of a connection with her that would be... It's something that, like, she would have trouble with, and it's a good thing to, like, make, you know, your problems don't need to be something horrible like that to be, like, to be hard for you.
It doesn't have to be some big dramatic thing. It can just be, like, you know, a friend of mine went through a rough time, and I wasn't there for her, and now I feel guilty about it. And, like, I don't know what to do or say to her. Will you go with me when I meet her again for the first time in 2.5 years or however the hell long it's been? Yeah. And, you know, kind of help me smooth things over. And that would have been nice. It would have been a good little scene. It would have been like, you know, Futaba doesn't know how to do it. But instead we had to shoehorn in more allusions to sexual assault because why not? I mean, let's earn that M rating, I guess. Whatever.
I will say, if I only have, like, one problem with how Futaba is written, it's that too much of her being the way she is, it's just built on, like, completely extraordinary tragedy. Like, everyone else has, like, bad tragedies, but, like, they're still kind of within the scope of believability. But, like, her mom was killed by government spooks, and then also her friend was definitely sexually child trafficked. And it's like, okay, Futaba, slow down, hold on.
If it had just been, like...
You can have one.
You can have one of these, give the other one to a different character, or just throw it in the trash.
Right.
Like,
Gee, Futaba, why do your writers let you have two tragedies?
God.
You have to stop.
It's so horrible.
No, but like on a much more lighter note, like it's completely averting tragedy. Oh my god, I died laughing at the anticlimax of her.
Where she just kind of like walks off, like she's just like, oh, I'm done.
Well, no, not that, but the part where she passes.
Oh my
out.
God, yes.
Oh yeah,
and. Like, and it's you and Makoto, and you're like, oh my god, we're going to have to reveal our secret. There's no way around this.
Killed this
like,
baby.
Futaba might die. This is terrifying. We have to tell Sojiro. And they're all gearing up for, like, the worst possible consequence. And Sojiro's just like, oh, yeah, well, she does it sometimes.
My favorite part of, like, weird pacing inconsistency in that is that, that for me, I think some people could have done it for Kanashiro's, but for me, the fourth palace was the first palace that I was actually able to steamroll in a single day.
Yeah.
And I did it as early as possible. Yeah. And as a result, Sojiro's like, oh, she'll wake up in, like, a few days, and then, like, 3 weeks go by.
Yeah,
and you're like,
Sojiro down for, like, a month.
Sojiro, are you sure she's going to wake up? I think she might be dead.
I mean, I have to imagine that, like, in situations like that, she did kind of zone in and out, and then
he actually does mention that, like, not to, because it is hilarious to think she just slept for 21 days, and God help me, I don't want to crush that dream, but I'm going to, because he does mention in a few, like, throwaway lines of incidental dialogue that she gets up occasionally to, like, eat, and then goes back to sleep. So
I never caught those, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to, like, talk to him when he doesn't have a social link, and why would you ever do that?
So,
that's true.
So, you know, it is, like, a thing that gets brought up, but, like, you know, it's way funnier to think she's just kind of, like, dead to the world for 3 weeks.
Just that whole, like, that, just the way he, because, like, before then, like, literally before that moment, Sojiro has always just been, like, really harsh, and, like, he's got that really forceful tone when he talks, and then you get to Futaba being unconscious, and he's like, Futaba,
Hey, yeah.
Oh,
well,
she's fine. She'll be fine.
It's great
she does
because
this
his voice actor is the main character of the original Nier. And,
oh yeah,
and that game has a fun relationship with thing with father-daughter relationships and like horrible tragedies and things like that.
Right.
So you go into that scene expecting like impassioned screaming or
nope.
whatever. It's like, no, don't die on me, Futaba. It's like, hey, Futaba, wake up. Okay, never mind.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine, y'all.
she ran out of battery. Like, he even says, like, it's like she has batteries and she just ran out.
What?
It's just like, that's just, and even Makoto even says,
I have no way to describe how I'm feeling right
this.
now, is like basically her line, and it's perfect because I was the same way. I'm like, oh god, here it comes. Nope, she's fine. It's cool. Don't worry about it. But boy, like, Futaba has all the really good, like, I love, and we'll eventually, like, in another podcast, we'll talk about, like, Sojiro as a character, because we'll do those. We don't have enough.
Yeah.
Nearly enough time.
Yeah, we're already way over, and we're not even done yet.
It's fine. But so, like, I think all of Futaba's, like, really emotional moments, like, the really heavy moments, are so good because she is so, like, obviously, because she has this incredible trauma. She has social anxiety. She has all these really relatable problems. So because of it, when, like, the emotions hit her, she just gets so overwhelmed that she doesn't know what to do. And because of it, those moments feel very real. So all of these, like, heavy emotional beats with her, like when Sojiro finds out that you guys are the Phantom Thieves, like, that whole scene is so well done, in part because Futaba is just so, like, she's distraught. She's, like, really upset.
She's scared. She's really scared.
She's, like, practically silent and, like, almost non-sensory, and it's like, oh, I know people like that.
Yes, she's, like, in full-on panic attack mode.
Some of the realest writing in this game is when people don't say or do anything, because sometimes, like, that happens.
You just overload, and you don't know what to do with yourself anymore, and you're so scared of what the consequences might be that you just lock up. Like, that is such a human response to, I think my dad is angry at me. Like, that is such a normal... I have had that reaction. My dad is mad at me. Don't say anything. Oh, God, just let this be over with. You know? Even if it's not, like, they're mad at... Even if they're not that mad at you. Like, really, you still just lock up. That is such a normal response. And so because of it, she just feels... Her and Makoto feel just so human as a response to being like this. You know? Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
She's just really, like, damn good girl. She's a good girl. She's my good, she's my squid daughter.
Good kid.
It's fine. Okay. Do we...
So let's proceed, I suppose, to,
probably the weirdest character, like, thematically, because you've already mentioned this before, but Haru doesn't get a lot of time to develop, but she also has, like, one of the best social links in the game. It's so weird!
Yeah, she has a great social link, but also no screen time and next to nothing to do and no build-up, and she's also introduced in, like, the bottom of the second act of the game. It's, like, completely mind-blowing.
She has... The worst thing about Haru is her introduction.
Yeah. Yes!
Like, everything else about her is great.
Yeah, it's like... She, you know, like, because her major introduction is the cringiest moment in the game, like we said, and Haru is kind of tangled up in all of this, and so she's got to put, you know, she's kind of tied into that. So, like, when you meet Haru, you're already at full, you know? Like, you're just over it at that point.
It's unfortunate because it doesn't make sense for, like, the pacing of the dungeons themselves, but I feel like, based on just, like, how formulas have worked, like, pacing-wise from past entries, like, it would have made more sense if Haru was your third-party member, and then you didn't get Makoto until this point in the game, because at this point in the game, Makoto's had a shitload of build-up.
Yeah.
And then ostensibly it's like, okay, now she's joining for real, whereas Haru had, like, I think literally one cutscene before that.
It's so weird.
She was in the fireworks festival, and she had a little bit of dialogue in Hawaii.
Yeah, you saw her, like, twice, and, like, it wasn't even in any way that was, like,
substantial,
immediately relevant to things that were happening.
To me, the fireworks scene is so weird, because, like, literally all that happens is it rains, and it's an anime cutscene, so it's kind of like an important thing. It rains, and Makoto sees Haru, or Makoto and Akira see Haru getting into a car, and then when you're inside the convenience store trying to dry off, Makoto goes, I think I just saw someone I knew. And that is literally the only time Haru is mentioned at all until Hawaii. And that's months later.
This has a very easy fix, and the fix is the fact that, like, as is, Haru does not appear anywhere in the school or in any of the school-related scenes until she is, like, an actual character, so you have no idea that she even exists until July, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't even talk to her, like, because you can talk to Makoto before you have her formal introduction. Like, it'll be, like, student council president, and she'll, like, berate you for wasting time in the library or whatever. Like, you don't even see Haru, like, you can't even, like, go up to the rooftop, and like, you could have had a scene where, like, you know, when you first go up to the rooftop in the very beginning of the game, that's your hideout. You could have, like, said, like, there's a girl up here already, and then she's like, oh no, I'm just leaving, and then you can have your meeting.
Exactly.
You can even see her planters in the background. Like, on the roof.
Weird.
It's such a strange decision.
There's a thing with, like her father's dungeon, specifically, of being, like, the one actual palace in the game that has, like, absolutely no bearing on heist fiction whatsoever, where I feel like her entire, like, connected arc was, like, the last thing they developed. They're like, oh god, we need something to connect Act 1 to Act 3, please. Please, God, give us something. And they just, like, sort of like, alright, let's have a girl who's like this, and her dad's like this, and I guess we'll give him this dungeon. And then she was done. And that's why she doesn't exist before July, basically, at all.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's really weird.
It's just so... The pay...
And then... I was gonna say, and then they make up for it by giving her one of the best social links in the game, and giving her a really fun personality once you actually get to know her a little bit more.
But you really... Like, that's the thing, is that, like... She has a great social link, and she has a, like, hilarious personality, because, like, you know, the subtle implication that Haru Okumura might be a bit of a psychopath is hilarious, no matter what. Like, but the thing is that even when she is part of the party, like, after the whole thing, like, her dad dies, like, in a horror movie, which I also just saw before we started this call, she just kind of stops being plot relevant. Like, she doesn't even have a lot of, like, plot-related conversations with the party. You know?
Yeah. Her and Anne have this problem the worst, I think, where it's like, they are very relevant for their respective, like, dungeon arcs, and then the game just kind of like, oh, what do you mean, Anne? What do you mean, Haru? We never wrote those characters in there.
Yeah, they kind of fade away from changing the storyline.
Yeah, like, they don't have a lot of impact on the storyline, which is such a damn shame, because, like, again, like with On, I really like Haru as a character because she's goofy and she's, you know, funny, she's cute, like, she's really cute. I love her stupid poofy hair. Like, she has a good design. Her thief outfit is really, really cool. She has two of the best designed personas in the game, between Milady and Astarte.
Oh god, Milady's
and Astarte
awesome!
is tremendous.
Is, like, one of my favorite advanced personas, and the shit part is that if you're playing this on your first playthrough or your second, hell, if you're playing this on the first playthrough, there's a very substantial chance that you will never actually see Astarte, because you get Haru's social link so late that if you do not actually have the fortune teller done, it is, like, pretty much impossible to finish it in time.
I
actually, you don't get to start her.
I didn't.
You don't get to start her.
I didn't do it. In my first playthrough, I didn't do Haru's social link at all. Like, I didn't even initiate it because I was like, I'm pressed for time between her and...
I tried to hammer it out as soon as I could, and I think I got her to rank 5. And then, like, the game ended. So, like, unless you are, like, are sure to be like, okay, I'm friends with the fortune teller, I can, like, basically pay to have her social link advanced for free, like, even then, you're not going to see her advanced persona until literally the final dungeon of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I managed to do it. I don't know how I managed to do it, but I did get hers done. And, like, what really speaking of that, like, really sucks to me about Haru and her introduction is that you aren't even really incentivized to use her in her introductory dungeon, because by this point everyone else will have their confidant skills. Yeah. And the idea of starting off with someone who doesn't have any of them is like, why would you use her? She can't baton pass.
If your combat strategy relies on baton passes, which mine does, Haru is completely useless in her own dungeon. Like, she serves no purpose because I can't baton pass her. So I never even used her in her own dungeon. Like, a lot of...
Her only advantage is, like, being specifically type advantage to that dungeon, and even then, like, it's not by much. And the problem is...
But by then you should have tons of side personas anyway.
They fixed this problem with the last character we'll be talking about, because when you get him and he joins your party, it's like, hey, here's all the confidant links for this character.
They could have done that with Haru so easily.
They could have just been like, hey, here's rank...
They could have had Haru...
rank 1 Haru.
Rank up immediately.
Here's rank 1 Haru, you get all the shit that you need for this stage of the game. You get her to, like, equivalent of rank 7 at rank 1.
Or just give her baton pass. Yeah. That's all I need. Just have her social link actually start when you get her, and then she just has baton pass, and then I'm good. Then I can actually use her. I won't be using her, like, effectively because she doesn't have the Harrison recovery or she doesn't have the, protect. But like, I can at least use her most baseline thing.
And in Ben, when we've been talking, we talk about this game extensively, even when we're not doing the Gorge. Ben suggested one thing to me once that was, I think, a great idea, which is you should have been able to establish Haru's social link in some capacity before she joined the party, and she just doesn't get. And it could have been like a catchy, where like you can establish her social link, and until like if you hit a certain day in the plot, you just can't advance her social link anymore. That's what they did with Adachi. They made it work with Adachi, where after a certain point you can't advance his social link because it's all plot related after that. You could have had Haru be like a social link, just, the third-year girl on the roof or something, and that would have let you get to know her.
He did that with Sojiro, too, in this game, where like you can't advance his social link past rank 4 or whatever until you get Futaba.
Well, and here's the other thing is that I just thought about this recently, speaking on that note, where it's like, Haru's unique in that she gets a bonus every rank. And like, she alternates between party ranks and between gardening ranks, and you could have done her social link, and she could have done the gardening bonuses until she joins the party, and then she gets all the buffs that she would have gotten.
And that would have been fine, and then you could have actually known Haru before, like, she was introduced in the game. She could have been a character just hanging out in the halls. She could have been a social link. She would have been somebody she's this rich girl, you don't understand, she's this rich chick who's, like, engaged, and you're like, man, that kind of sucks, and then after, like, rank 5 or something, she's locked out. It's like, well, Haru is no longer available because plot reasons, whatever.
I say, you don't even have to do anything that complex. You can just literally do what they did for Ketchy, which is, like, you run into her in certain, on certain, kind of plot important days, and you get a rank, and it's, like, gives you some kind of bonus, and then she joins your party, and she's already, like, rank 5 or rank 6, and that she has, like, the appropriate abilities, so you at least are incentivized to use her.
Yeah, I mean, Saturn, you could do that, Saturn, but I think it would be way cooler because, like, a Ketchy is automatic, so there's something up with it.
Right, that's true.
Like, it would have been cool if Haru was just the gardening girl, and she's like any other standard social link, and then all of a sudden, she's a party member.
I will say the only problem with that is that
cool.
then they have to account for if you haven't actually maxed her social link by the time you meet her.
Yeah.
And that is, like, a thing that would be complicated to do, I think. But I think there's probably ways to work around it.
Yeah.
They could have done
something instead of nothing, which is what they did, was the nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, if they had done that, it just would have been, she just wouldn't have had those bonuses, And then it's like, you would still, like, her social link would initiate in basically the same way, and if it's like, well, if you initiate her social link after you get her as a party member, you, like, 1 or 2 lines of dialogue change. It's not hard to change lines of dialogue in a dialogue-based game,
Because none of them are voiced early on, so it's pretty easy to just change it. So
like, I mean, they could have found some way to make that work, because then it would have been, like, a neat little twist, So, like, because Haru deserved better. She's a good character who just deserved to be on screen more. The only reason Naoto works in Persona 4, even though you get her so late, is because she's been in the game since the beginning of the goddamn game.
Yep.
And that's it.
And so that's speaking of that particular style of social link into party member of a character who's been there since the beginning of the game and then appears late. There's our last guy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there is. All I wrote my first note for Goro is "Hoo boy."
We're gonna be here for a little while.
At this point, you are already 2 hours into the podcast. I hope you're ready to strap in for like a little bit more, because I'm not going to say Goro definitely has the most to talk about, because we gushed about Makoto for a fucking while, but Goro has a lot of things to talk about, and because like so much of his character is emblematic of both like the intended writing of Persona 5 and also the places where Persona 5's writing just goes completely to shit.
Yeah, it's like Goro's like whole character arc is like, it's both where Persona 5 shines and also kind of where Persona 5 fails. Like, it's such a weird thing, because as a character, as a concept, it's really interesting. It's like, obviously the whole idea is that it's obvious that Goro is the traitor. Everybody knows it basically from the beginning of the game. You can look at the fucking box art and be like, that one. Like, so the twist is not... The twist is not that he's the traitor. That's obvious. The twist is, well, why? And, like, so you get this whole, like, fucking backstory, but you get it so late, and most of it kind of happens right before he dies, and it's kind of like, shit, well, so you don't know what's going on, like, with this, in this character's head, and so then Atlas is just like, haha, have fun arguing about this on the internet, and oh my god, I'm so tired of it already. And so just, like, all of this, but, like, as a character, like, straight up, Goro is, like, my second, maybe favorite, probably favorite character. Probably.
He would be my favorite character if he wasn't, like, literally squandered by the plot.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like the core problem with this is that Goro is written not intentionally mind to be two different characters, where on one hand he's supposed to be the dramatic foil to Akira, and I think in a better written version of the story, it's like he's confronted and defeated and offered redemption and takes it, basically, because, like, there's a lot of stuff about, like, in the game that's like, about the decision to be, like, good or evil, basically.
Right.
And there's a lot of things like, these people that we've punished so far, like, they're basically, like, have to suffer the rest of their lives knowing what they did, but, like, you could end up, like, bringing that home with Akechi, where it's like, I've done these awful things, I'm going to atone for them, first by helping you fight evil, and then, in order to circumvent the fucking horribly formulaic martyrdom shit that Persona 5 does at the end of it, just have him be like, look, Akira, I got this, I'll testify, I'll take the heat, I'll go to jail for life, whatever. You just live, because you didn't do anything wrong, and this is my cross to bear. And so you can kind of have both things, and, like, still have him get his, like, his, like, nice little redemption arc, and then still have him be, you know, punished for being a horrible, horrible criminal. And then on the other side of that, you have it that he's just like, we need Adachi, let's put Adachi in here. He's, like, completely nuts, and then he dies for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good. It's really good writing, you guys. I love it.
It's great. It's really frustrating, is what it is, because it's just kind of.
Well, and I think part of that is also intentionally supposed to be, like, frustrating, because you get dialogue afterwards where, like, the party's like, even the party is like, I don't know how to feel about this. This is a really, like, it's like, it's not like, I don't know if, I can go back and forth with this, I can kind of get the opinion that, like, Akechi isn't supposed to be, like, isn't, like, squandered, it's that Akechi's supposed to be a tragic figure. In that, even when he is offered his redemption, he doesn't get it.
I want to believe you, except for the fact that aside from one throwaway line from Sae wondering where he is never mentioned again after he dies.
No, he gets mentioned a few times.
He gets mentioned in the boss fight with Shido, and then Sae wonders where he is, and no one's like, oh yeah, he died. Like, no one's like, oh yeah, this is what happened to him, it's very sad, but he did a thing. Everyone just sort of, like, pretends that they never knew him, basically, and it kind of fucking sucks.
Well, but that's also kind of intentional, because remember, around that point in the game, they make a point to be like, no one cares about anything.
I mean, I don't know.
Like, society stopped, like, they're like, no one's talking about what we did as Phantom Thieves, no one's talking about what's going on, they're only focused on idly talking about the election.
I could understand that for, like, not reporting it or whatever, but, like, they don't even tell Sae, who openly wonders what happened to him. They don't tell anyone. And it bothers me because it feels like there's a point where, like, they were maybe not sure what to do with him, and they just decided, and they just left the fucking ending stuff after that blank so they didn't have to account for it. Like, it's the side part that really gets stuck in my craw, because she explicitly, like, has a, like, professional relationship with him, and, like, would realistically be concerned about what happens to him, and expresses his concern, and he is just, like, never mentioned again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It bothers me.
No, I feel it.
Yeah, but he's going to be back, so it doesn't matter.
Lot of I joke a lot that a lot of Akechi's story arc is basically Atlas going, please be excited for Persona 4 or Persona 5 Arena, because that's basically what it is. Yeah, you know, which isn't an excuse by any stretch of the matter, because, like, I hate. Like we've said before, I'm not a big fan of fake out death scenes, so it's gonna be like, Akechi's not dead in Arena, because, like, Akechi's the most popular character in the game, the Japanese polls say so. So, it's the Adachi treatment all over again. He's gonna show up in arena and he's gonna be fine. But then that's just another fucking fake out death scene. So, like, even, like, you know, any, like, that, you know, emotional poignancy is still kind of squandered. Although, I mean, I still like it more. I'm so divided on it because, like, I don't like redemption equals death either. Like, I just think that's a dumb trope that needs to ironically die. Because it's kind of overdone. And I don't like the idea of redemption equals death for a fucking 17-year-old. Because I'm a grown-up now, and I don't like that idea. Just because it seems really fucked up to to put all this shit on a teenager, and that character dies, but the grown-ass adults who did, you know, including one who turned a 17-year-old into a hitman, basically, that guy gets to live, and even, it's kind of weird that even in, like, you know, like, taking it back to what Saturn was saying, like, kind of weird that even in, like, Shido's, like, big TV confession, he doesn't mention, like, the fact that he turned his own son into, like, a, you know, laser-guided type bomb, as the trope says. Like, there's a few little missteps here and there. I mean, as a character, I adore Akechi.
That's the weird tonal thing, is that the game also hates death by redemption, because they explicitly say, no, we can't do death by redemption to these other horrible criminals, and then it inflicts death, one, on the person who was not redeemed, who was Okamura, who seemed like just being a total shithead to the end, basically. Mm-hmm. And then also on Akechi, who is a kid who mostly had his evil decisions inflicted on him by a horrible, uncaring world, and, like, as a not even an adult, like, only had a marginal degree of control over his actions compared to 30, 40, 50-year-old men that we've been, like, combating, like, throughout the game. And it's like, it bothers me, like, it's less about, like, oh, the character needs to live, because, like, I would have rather had it, like, hey, he dies, and then so does Ryuji, and then so does Morgana, because I like a story that's not afraid to play hardball with the stakes. Mm-hmm. But it's, like, you have the game being like, well, I don't want to play hardball with the stakes, so none of your main characters are going to get inconvenienced or die or whatever, but then on the flip side, you also have, oh, Akechi's fucking dead. Bye.
But that's also why I think that Akechi was more supposed to be a tragedy than, like, a metaphysical punishment for his actions. Like, that's why I think that their intent was to make it a tragedy and not like, this is how we punish Akechi for his actions. It was more like, this kid's not going to get what he wants, and that's going to be the hardest part about it, is that, you know, it's that I think is like, again, the world isn't fair of, like, hey, you know, these guys get to live, these absolute scumbags get to live, and the kid who needed redemption doesn't.
Yeah.
It'd be an easier pill for me to swallow if it wasn't just Akechi, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But the problem with that kind of moral is that, again, Akechi's not fucking dead. Like, we all know this.
Yeah. Ultimately, we know he's not going to be dead, and if they ever do, like, release the Crimson or Switch, like, he's going to show up at the end.
I mean, and he's going to be in arena.
And then I'll just be doubly mad, so it's fine.
It's kind of like there's no way, I mean, there's, like, no real way to, like, you know, win, except you just retcon that whole scene.
There's gonna Morgana him, except it's going to be, like, even less, like, satisfying or, like, reasonable, and I'm just gonna hate it. So it's fine.
I mean, to be fair, if anyone does have a reason to, like, they're surprised that they're alive, to just fucking bail on everyone, that's would be
true.
Catchy.
I guess that's true.
And that would be pretty fun.
Like, if he's like, if
Morgana had literally no
if he
reason.
is alive,
like
if Akechi, like, is revealed to be alive, the party is going to stumble upon him. He's not going to be seeking them out because that's complicated.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. So, like,
they're gonna find him working in a Big Bang Burger. It's like, look, I'm trying to turn my life around.
No, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna find him hanging out with Shu.
God. Oh my god. Jeez.
Like, he's gonna, like, him and Minazuki are just gonna be touring the world as guys who didn't really get, like a complete resolution.
Totally. Just gonna hang out with Sho all the time. That's it. Just
Sho, not Shu, whatever.
She was the tower kid from Persona 4.
Yeah, I'm talking about Sho Minazuki. Yeah,
it's fine.
Isn't Shu Basketball Boy?
No,
that's
Ko.
Ko.
There's a lot of single monosyllabic names in P4 to remember. But no, Shu is the little fucking kid with the bowl cut and the boring social link.
And Sho Minazuki is the great villain from P5 for
fucking
Ultimax.
awesome character from Ultimax. And I mean, I would love to watch that team up for sure. So like, yeah, I was joking. I was like, listen, you can't like play with my emotions like this, Atlas. You can't like kill a character off and tell me like, please be excited for Persona 5 Arena. That won't work on me. It's gonna work on me. I'm not gonna lie. It's already working
on
me because I would happily take a bullet for this kid because I just like all of the implications of his fucking backstory. Like you want to talk about like tragedy, like yeah, Futaba gets it, but boy, God Almighty, chill the fuck out, Atlas.
Well, and like one of the things I really appreciate is that like Saturn, you mentioned like he's just a Adachi again, and I mentioned this last week. Like they do a really good job of being like, no, he's not Adachi. There's a lot more going on with him not being Adachi, to the point where, like, the two who would have the most beef with him, like Haru and Futaba, they make it a point to say that, like, no, I don't forgive you for what you've done, but I can sympathize with you. And when they confront Shido, Haru puts the blame on her father's death on Shido. Like, she deliberately said, like, she doesn't put it on Akechi. She doesn't say, like, you made Akechi kill my father. She says, you killed my father.
I think Futaba even says the same thing, like, you killed my mom.
Oh, I agree with you on that. When I say he's basically Adachi, I mean, like, they shamelessly, like, made him do the exact same poses in battle and gave him a persona that looks suspiciously like Magatsu Izanagi. And it's like, you know...
Yeah, but Loki's so cool
looking! Yeah, he's cool looking, but it's also like, okay, guys, I get it. He screams and laughs like a maniac, and also he does that weird stand thing where he looks like he's kind of drunk.
Right.
And, like, it's supposed to be sinister, but he just looks kind of goofy.
Yeah, but that's like that's not a Adachi exclusive thing. That's like a crazy Japanese anime guy, like does the weird swagger thing.
I guess that's true. I want my ultimate dream version of Persona 5, where instead of having Goro Akechi, he's replaced by Goro Majima from Yakuza.
No, you know what I want? I want the dream Persona 5 where he's replaced with the Shokan Prince Goro
from Mortal Kombat. Yes.
And it's the exact same dialogue, and he's treated exactly like the Detective Prince Dreamboat, but he's just this four-armed hulking monstrosity.
Akira, who do you think's going to betray you? Well, I can take a guess.
I might have an idea. I might have a clue or two. Yeah. Oh, sweet God. What else is there? I feel like there's a lot to unpack here and to say.
Worst case scenario, you can always do an episode 3.
There's going to be an episode 3. That's not a worst case scenario.
So, Sarah and I have already discussed this. Like, when it comes to, like, filler episodes or just, like, we want to talk about it, there's so much for Persona 4 and now for Persona 5 that we can just keep fucking going, man.
You can revisit this well until you are old and gray, and there will still be more things to talk about.
We could easily do character breakdown part 2 for everyone. We barely scratched the surface of these guys.
It's true. I feel like I could keep going. I feel like I could keep saying. I could probably devote an entire podcast to how bad I feel for Goro Akechi because, like, I'm really, like, pathetic about it at this point. Maybe I've just kind of, like, talked myself into it, maybe. But whatever, I don't care. It's fine. I've embraced that part of me, the weird fangirl part of myself. It's fine.
It's okay. I'm the same way. I'm not even like a fangirl. I'm just like Goro Akechi Defense Squad because he got fucking done dirty real bad.
He got fucking done dirty real bad.
It's and like I really appreciate how, like, I told Sarah this like several times, even in this playthrough. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about Goro.
Because it's such a, like, complicated thing.
I'm really mixed up on, like, how, because, like, it's such a foreign concept for a character like this, where you're just like, man, he got done real raw, but, like, he is, he was very clearly vengeful from the beginning, and it's like, how do you reconcile, like, all this?
Right.
I will say for for his problems with, like, not being sure whether he's being written as either, like, a kind of sympathetic bad guy loner or, like, a cackling maniacal villain, like, they do a lot to make sure that you never really know how to feel about Goro Akechi, and I really appreciate that.
What I really, really appreciate is that, like, it's very clear that, like, his cackling maniacal side is he's forcing that.
Mm-hmm. And they make it pretty obvious too,
like,
that it's just like a front they put on.
Yeah, like he's not like I want to murder all of you. It's like he's saying that to, like, be intimidating, but he doesn't really believe in all that.
He's saying it to make himself believe it, even though he still doesn't.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and there's also like someone pointed out this on Tumblr that, like, there's the implication that he's using his, like, mind wiping powers, like his psycho influence powers, like, on himself.
Yeah.
He it is explicit in his boss fight at the very least.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, we were talking about it, like, you know, because his job is basically soloing palaces and parts of mementos to go drive people crazy or kill them. So, like that's his job as, like, a teenage hitman. So that means, like, you know, soloing a palace is pretty hard. So, and Desperation, which is what the move is called, gives you a crazy attack boost, which can be stacked with Charge and Heat Riser, which is really not fun when you're actually fighting a character like that. But you can stack all that shit and basically just steamroll your way through fucking anything like that, which is, I mean, like, it's completely within, like, the scope of reason to say that, like, yeah, he's been doing that to himself just to make it to these targets. And, like, so yeah, we don't know how fucking out of his mind this kid actually is. The answer is probably a lot.
Probably a lot.
Probably a whole fucking lot. And, you know, I just wish, and I know we'll get it with the Crimson or Arena, whatever we're fucking getting next. God knows what it is.
Or whatever like fan base shit they're gonna shovel out that I will, like, gladly eat up, like some sort of, like,
horrible
brain dead pig. You know,
just like, yes, give me all this.
Put the Persona slop in the slop trough, Atlas. Let me go.
We did it for 8 years with. We did it for 8 years
and
with 4.
I'll happily do it for another 8 to 10 years. It's fine. It's fine. I've accepted that I am a slave. One emancipation.
No, I don't.
I don't.
Not from Persona.
Not from Persona. So yeah, just keep feeding me this bullshit, Atlas. I mean, the inevitable anime is coming. Let's be real for a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe it'll be good. It won't be good.
Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
That's actually a good way to sum up how ugly the fucking character models look in most of Persona 4, the anime. Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
What's wrong with your face?
While, like, half of Chie's face is, like, sliding down her cheek. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's great.
It's great. I love that Persona 4 came to anime. It makes me so happy.
The only way Persona 5 anime is going to be any good is if they give it to Trigger, because this is the anime with enough style that it deserves to be high octane action.
But they're going to give it to A1 Pictures instead and ruin my life.
Yeah. Or give it to David Pro, because they are... Get a significant other that treats you as good as loyal to you as David Pro is to JoJo.
Get you that level of adaptation.
Yeah, because, like, that's what it deserves. Like, if David Pro gets a hand in Persona, like, it's gonna be the most one-to-one act. It'll be like 160 episodes because it'll cover every single day of the game.
God, it's so true though.
I can't wait to watch 4 episodes of them fruitlessly chasing Morgana around.
That's just Dragon Ball Z at that point, isn't it?
I guess so.
I guess so. But it's like, they'll just get A1 Pictures to do it again, and then A1 Pictures won't bring their A game because they already brought their A game with the Persona 3 movies, and we'll never get those ever a fucking again. So it's just gonna be some fucking train wreck. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I've prepared my soul. I've been disappointed enough. It's fine.
It's fine.
I'm ready to watch the Awakening scenes on YouTube and then nothing else.
Not a goddamn other thing. It's fine.
Well, here's what they need to do for Persona 5 anime is just need to skip the animation studio entirely and just try and do a better version of the new Berserk thing and just use the 3D model and the in-game engine.
Oh man, I would watch that though.
No, do it even dirtier. Give it to Trigger, but give it to the Inferno
Yes!
Con team.
Fucking God, please.
Please. Just fucking animate the whole thing like Inferno
I don't
Cop.
want to see a single keyframe in your entire Persona 5 animation.
Yes.
It has to be all tweening.
Beautiful. Perfect. I love this plan, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So, yeah. Boy, we've talked about Persona 5 for nearly 2.5 hours now, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
boy.
guess what? You've heard more the last week, and there's going to be more of it on this channel next week. I'm positive.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, no, because we're actually taking a break next week, and then E3 is the week after
E3 is
that.
here to eat your life. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
I recommend
that'll...
if you have the free time during E3. I don't know if you do your podcast as like live commentary or post commentary.
That would actually be pretty good, but we both work full-time jobs, so I don't think it's possible.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was gonna say my favorite hobby for E3 is watching the streams with like all the bad commentary on them and just taking random screenshots when you see a particularly egregious comment and trying to match it up with the faces on screen of people being interviewed.
That's a good plan.
Like, I'll try to like my work computer doesn't let me have sound on it, so I'll just have to like read like the frequently updating news articles on like Polygon.
It's fine.
That's tragic.
But then I'll watch the recordings.
So unfortunately, no live stream from the
we will be doing a E3 episode like we did last year, and this time I won't fuck up the audio, so that'll be good.
Exciting.
And Saturn, if you want to come on for any more Persona episodes, you're always
I will come on for
we'll
whatever
let you know
episodes you want to have me on for, because I really enjoy gushing a lot about video games. So you just let me know.
Absolutely, 100,000%.
Totally.
It's fun. I love it. It's cool to have a third voice acting as like the person who's kind of like another opinion, because sometimes I know Ben and I can turn into an echo chamber because we've been friends for so long.
I completely understand.
So it is kind of nice to have someone to discussion.
An opposing opinion instead of just us going 2 hours of that's so cool. Which it's fine. You gotta get sometimes you gotta get that out of your system though. Like, let's be real. But damn, you're always welcome for more Persona. So
hell yeah,
sweet.
So
and anything else?
So thanks to Visitor for use of background music. Link to his work in the description. You can follow us on Twitter at The Gorge Podcast. You can email us about Persona or about anything at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Tumblr at thegorgepodcast@tumblr.com. Sarah, Saturn, you guys have another podcast. What's your other podcast
we have
about?
another podcast. It's called Big Gay Nerds. It's an LGBT RPG live play podcast. Fuck yeah.
It's a lot of acronyms, but I promise you it's not just alphabet soup. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. We play different systems of tabletop games once a month. We cycle through it. We're still doing Monster Hearts right now, and it's been an absolute fucking blast.
Oh god, yeah.
Right? Holy shit, it's been a ride.
You should after this, you should go listen to those episodes, because things are heating up.
Things are beautiful.
I mean, you shouldn't probably just jump right into the middle of it, but you know.
But if you want to, you're more than welcome to. Go right ahead. We are on Saturn. What are all we on? We're on Tumblr at Big Gay Nerds.
We're on Tumblr at Big Gay Nerds. I think we're on Twitter on BGNcast or Big Gay Nerds Cast or something like that. I have it linked in my Twitter bio, which coincidentally is at Hot Robots, in case you're listening to this and want to find me on different things.
Right.
I definitely have the link to the Big Gay Nerds Cast Twitter on that, though, so feel free to check it out. That's basically the only other thing of note I do, aside from post horrible shit on Twitter and Tumblr. So
it's fine. It's great.
I also have one more shout out because I forgot to do this last week and I wanted to do it this week. I have a friend who hosts a website that they do video game and anime reviews, and they're really cool. I wrote a few articles for them. It is dashingnerds.com. That is one word, dashingnerds.com. They're pretty cool. You should check them out. They're great. Our podcast is also hosted on their site too, so everything is cool.
That's nice. Shout outs and cross promotions. Look at us. We're getting fucking synergistic up in here, guys.
Hell yeah. The search engine optimization on this episode is killer.
It's incredible. Saturn, I don't know if you know this, we end every episode saying fuck something related to the game. I'm going to give you the honor So yeah.
Oh wow.
So yes, Persona 5 has a lot of villains. So who should we tell to fuck off?
Fuck Morgana.
Beautiful. Perfect. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.